Monday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels. We had up until 2 o'clock. The next 4 hours we've got you. We got some Royals to get into, some Chiefs to get into, some NFL football trades that we can talk about, some gambling issues going on in the NBA, and some stadium conversation that we may talk about. We got Learn Funniest Best coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. Joel Penfield, One Royal Way podcast. He will be our guest coming up at noon. 913-912-4810 is the text line to join us. 913-912-4810. Text line to join us. Royals head out on the road. Good for them. Home hasn't been friendly to them. Home is not where their heart is. Wherever you lay your head, maybe that's what you can call home. I don't know. They haven't touched home plate at home very often, if you know what I mean. So they head to Seattle, the Royals do, against a team that a year ago was going through exactly what the Royals are going through right now in this offensive anemic stretch.
It's getting kind of hard to believe things are going to get better.
That is true. You know, Saturday, they go out there and score 9 runs. And it almost felt like, you know, just looking for something, right? Looking for little morsels that you could grasp onto and hold on to. Little popcorn on the trail to lead you back to scoring runs. Something along the way. And Saturday happens, and it was like, okay, there you go. Let's see if this can be the catapult to the... No, it can't. It can't, because this is a team that does not have back-to-back games where they have good offensive performances. It's happened, 3 times this year? Out of the 83 games, 84 games that they have played? It's happened like 3 or 4 times where they've had back-to-back games where they've scored at least 5 runs. They just can't put 2 games together offensively. So even Saturday night, when you're like, okay, felt good, see what they can do, there wasn't a follow-up, and Sunday was so expected. I mean, I'm thinking about Sunday, I'm like, they're not going to score any runs. And it's going to be a shocker if they do score runs, because this is what we've seen time and time again. The anomaly is when they actually have an offensive outburst. Scoring 9 runs, I mean, it's crazy that they were able to score 9 runs.
But then the first inning happened.
Right. And when Garcia's hit, skips off the mound, and then Vinny pops up, I'm like, okay, well, yeah, this is one of those games. If Garcia comes through and Vinny comes through, maybe it's one of those quote-unquote floodgate games like you saw the night before, and maybe there is this offensive out. But it's like, even if that's the case, like, there isn't enough evidence. I'll compare it to what we talked about. How often did we talk about KU basketball this year and A.J. Storr? And it was like, oh, A.J. Storr had 15 points. Is this the game to where he's finally figured it out? And now he's going to feel comfortable. He's got the confidence now. He's scoring. And then he would go 2 weeks without scoring 15 total points. And then he'd have like an 18-point game. You're like, oh, I mean, is this Remy Martin? Is A.J. Storr going to be Remy Martin? And, he wasn't, because it didn't fit and he wasn't good enough. And we had the entire season's worth of evidence to show that. And that's what we're watching with the Royals right now. Any singular offensive output does nothing to change the narrative or change the confidence or get Royals fans to be back believing in the team that they're going to be good enough to go on this run to make it back to the postseason. They're 4.5 games out of the wild card. There was a time we were talking about the offensive struggles because they were going to fall out of the AL Central race when they were 4.5 games out behind the Tigers. Well, at least they're like, 4 games up on the wild card. They're leading the wild card, and they've got a 4-game buffer between them and then being out of the wild card. Well, that was 8.5 games ago in the standings, because now sitting 4.5 games out and heading to Seattle, where they'll face off against George Kirby And let me go ahead and put money on George Kirby going 7 innings, 2 hits, and 2 walks.
Oh, 0 walks. He's not walking anyone.
No, he'll have a leadoff walk. And it'll be like, okay, nice. All right, let's see if something can get going here. And that leadoff walk won't get to second.
Yeah, Vinny's going to get a leadoff walk. Salvi goes, hey, third baseman, get ready, pal.
Get ready
Gonna
for
hit
this
one right at you.
Yeah. I would say one of the more disappointing parts of this season, and it's unfortunate, was Friday night.
Oh,
Because it just felt like things were set up for potentially a breakout, potentially Jack Caglione to have his rookie moment. We saw the 2 home runs, obviously, but the rookie moment in a setting like that, 30,000 plus because the Dodgers in town, Friday night game, bases loaded, 1 out, down by 1. A single wins the game. A sac fly takes it into extras, Strikeout keeps the game alive. Pop-up keeps the game alive. Ground ball back to the pitcher that gets the out at home still keeps the game alive. Anything but the ground ball to second base or shortstop. And that's what happened. And that was just such a crushing blow. It was pretty shocking that Saturday they showed up and scored 9 runs after that loss on Friday night. But one of the more disappointing parts was that particular moment with Jack Caglione. Because you know what's there. This is somebody going through a rough stretch, 2 for his last 30, or 2 for his last 34 since having the 2 home run game. He's got 2 hits in his last 34 at-bats. You know the talent is there. You know the power is there. But it has started to go out. The power has started to have that outage that was immediate when he got to the big leagues. And I think what we're seeing, Sterling, is...
No one paid the light bill?
Right.
The electricity?
That's what I'm saying. John Sherman is cheap. He won't pay the electricity bill for Jack Caglione's bat, Go get Wonder Boy. Come on, do something to add a little spark into that bat. But I think what we're seeing is a couple things. One, pitchers making adjustments to, okay, now we've seen what Jack Caglione does. We've seen some weak spots. Actually, let's go 3 things. Adjustments by the pitchers. 2, I think Caglione is in his head with pitch recognition. And 3,
yes,
confidence.
Also, yes.
Because let me give you these numbers. And this is to where, he hasn't forgot how to hit, but it's a confidence thing. He came up to the big leagues riding high, crushing the baseball in AA, crushing the baseball in AAA, hitting the ball 110 miles an hour off the bat. We were keeping track of how many hits the Royals have this year in 110 plus miles an hour and who was leading the Royals in that. And it was like Bobby, Salvi, and then like the first 6 games, it was Jack at third. In third place. In the 8 games, first 8 games of his career, he had 33 at-bats. And he had 8 baseballs struck 110 miles an hour or harder exit velocity. 8 of them in his first 8 games. Since then, he's played 15 games, 52 at-bats. He's had 2. One of them was the home run that he hit. But here's what's even crazier. Not even crazier, just like evidence of what we're seeing that, has been different from the first 8 to 10 games that he played when you're like, you know what, his expected batting average is like 300. His expected slugging is like 5-something, okay? Those things are going to start finding grass, and it's going to start finding seats. But what's actually happened is the barrel is not finding the baseball as much. Because in those 15 games, because remember, 8 games, 8 balls of 110 miles an hour plus exit velocity. 15 games since, he's had 11 that have even eclipsed 100 miles an hour exit velocity. 11 total off the bat of 100 plus. And he had 8 that were 110 or more in his first 8 games. It's adjustments by the pitcher. He watched 2 fastballs go right down the middle to be sitting 0-2 in one of his at-bats. And it's a confidence thing. And maybe 2 and 3 are the combination. Maybe 2 and 3 of the in his own head and confidence are just combined, and I'm separating those. But either way, the pitchers are making their adjustments, and Jack is in a big rut right now because he's not even hitting the ball as hard, as consistently as he was when he first came up. I am not saying he needs to be sent down in any way, shape, or form. I believe the exact opposite of that. He goes down to the minors. Okay, so he rakes against AAA pitching again.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And who you calling up, that's going to make a difference. I mean,
right.
They've tried that carousel many a time. It's Jack should stay in the majors the rest of the season and try and figure it out.
Yeah.
There's no reason to send him down, in my opinion. I don't. It's not good for the ball club. It's not good for him. I don't foresee that happening unless, again, it gets just historically bad, and we're talking even worse than MJ Melendez, right? If it gets to that point, then okay, we can have another conversation. It's not quite there. I think pitchers adjusting. I think defenses have adjusted as well. If you look at where he's had the majority of his hits up the middle this year, they don't need as drastic of a shift on the infield to those balls when, the second baseman was closer to first base. You don't need to do that anymore because they realize, hey, he goes up the middle a lot. That's more or less his game. You don't need to have an extreme shift on him on the infield. That's been a difference. I think pitch recognition was a really good call. I don't know if it's that or confidence, or if it's a case of, well, when I swing first pitch, I pop out or I hit a ground ball. When I wait, that first pitch is a strike. He almost has a Salvi situation going on where I think Salvi's the same thing too, where it's anytime he thinks, okay, I'm going to take this first pitch because they keep throwing me low and away, it's a strike. Mm-hmm. And then he goes, okay, well, now they throw me a strike, I'm going to go for it, and now it's low and away. Cax has kind of had the same situation.
It was a surprise to watch 2 fastballs go right down the
correct
as strikes and him take both of them. That to me was like, all right, he's searching, he's guessing, he's searching, he's thinking something else is going, or he's taking the at bat of going, you know what? It was too quick of an at bat last time. I'm going to be up here and be patient. Well, I mean, being patient to a degree. And I think the Royals have tried to ambush a little bit more over these last 3, 4, 5 days. We've talked about them taking the first pitch and still being second in baseball of swing percentage.
Well, and they should. Yesterday or Saturday was a bullpen game with Shohei Ohtani. They should, with yesterday being a bullpen game with Lou Trevino. Those are the days that you definitely want to ambush because, end of the day, you're just trying to keep these guys rotating in and out. You don't expect a guy. What was his even name? I was at the game. I don't even know what his name was. Ryblowski or
Ryblowski.
Ryblowski.
Wow, Ryblowski.
The small Lebowski to go out and deal for 6 innings against you, right? Like that's you.
Southpaw Lebowski.
Yeah, Southpaw Lebowski. And so these are concerns, dude. Is you want to ambush those guys, and the Royals didn't. They made him look again like he's Chris Sale. And that was my big takeaway yesterday was the crowd don't care anymore. They're there just to be out in the sun and hang with the family and, oh, nice, baseball's on. But about the third inning on, after that first inning, when it was clear it was going to be a letdown, the Dodgers come out in the top of the next inning, score 2 runs on that. Was that the Will Smith home run or Kike Hernandez?
It was Kike Hernandez. It was a 1-2 pitch. You had 2 outs. You had 2 outs, nobody on.
Yes.
And they score 2.
And from that point on, it was more or less just the crowd goes, we've seen this many times. This is over.
Even against the bullpen. Even against the Dodgers bullpen game, they can't get anything going. And let's hear from Q assessing the weekend series versus the Dodgers.
Disappointment. I mean, we lost today. We were trying to win a series. It's been a few series since we've done that. So I'm disappointed.
Encouragement to be taken from the last couple of days? I mean, today you're feeling this right now, but I mean, in a broader sense, do you feel like, okay, we see that still in there, and there's?
Oh, we know that's in there. I mean, these guys are good baseball players. We're in a rut. Every team goes through something like this. This is prolonged for us. We're not hiding from that. We need to do this more consistently to stack wins together, and that's why it's disappointing today that we didn't.
You've had trouble following up a big scoring game with kind of anything the next day. Is that maybe a next step for you to string together at least a couple games where
We want to do that every day, right? It doesn't matter if we have a low-scoring game, we want to score a bunch the next day. We want to score a bunch of runs every day. It's tough to do, right? I'm sitting here telling you, we got to be better at it.
Yeah, the bottom of the Dodgers lineup was the one that did the most damage today. I just curious what you make of that, on both sides from their perspective and maybe from.
Yeah, I mean, Kike hit a home run on a changeup. He went down and got that. Muncie's hitting at the bottom of their order. He's a pretty good hitter in the big leagues for a long time now. So they have a deep lineup, and we didn't pitch effectively to them in the spots that we needed to.
And we talked about this yesterday with the top of the order coming through quite a bit today. The first, I mean, that's what it's going to take, right, to get this thing going, the offense clicking.
It's certainly going to help, but like we said, you just mentioned what they did at the bottom of the order. Our bottom of the order guys get the same opportunity to hit that theirs do. They get 3-4 at-bats every game, and they're equally capable of producing. We've seen that from our guys as well.
when you're struggling at home as you did this month, is there ever any sense that going out on the road can provide a different setting, a boost for you at all?
We love playing here. We haven't played well here. That's obvious that, it hasn't been fun for us. It hasn't been fun for our fans. We're going to try to do everything we can for the fans that follow us on the road, to watch us on TV. We're going to play better baseball. It doesn't matter where we go.
So there's Matt Quatrero, obviously disappointing. He's frustrated, continues to be frustrated, and for good reason. The bottom of the lineup for the Dodgers, Quatrero's right on one point of that. The Royals' bottom of the lineup has the same opportunities that the Dodgers' bottom of the lineup does. He's just wrong in saying that they equally are good enough to produce, because the Royals' bottom of the lineup is not equally as good enough to produce. They do have the same equal opportunities. It's just those opportunities are less efficient because they're less good.
Here we go. Max Muncy, OPSing, top of my head, about 850 right there, versus Mark Canha in the 7-hole. Who are you taking, Muncy or Canha?
I mean,
that's tough.
I don't know. I mean, it's just difficult. One guy can hit it to the outfield. The other guy can hit it to the fountains. I guess I'll take Muncy if I had to choose.
This one's actually interesting because Kike Hernandez, not a great player, but against lefties, he is one of the better players in baseball. Freddie Fermin.
I mean,
the numbers actually this year probably are about even.
I'll take second baseman Freddie Fermin. No,
That was awesome, by the way.
Kike Hernandez. Yeah.
I loved watching because he's he hits lefties.
But to that point, what's the next one?
Miguel Rojas versus Drew Waters.
Drew Waters yesterday, but typically Isbell.
Still, you're taking Miguel Rojas. I mean, and that's because they have Kim off the bench, who is hitting 383, 425, 543. I mean, they had their Sunday lineup. They had their Sunday getaway lineup in, and their backups are a lot of times better than the Royals starters.
And again, the what we've talked about, a guy that we were interested in the Royals, or at least I was interested in the Royals signing, was Michael Conforto. And he has been brutal this year. But he does have somewhat more of a track record of like, okay, if he plays every day,
sure,
this is what he should be. He shouldn't be a 170 hitter. He should be a guy that's batting 250, 260. He has been brutal there in L.A. Sometimes you go to a spot and you're more exposed, and it's like, okay, well, this is, maybe the Dodgers wasn't the best spot for him. I don't know. He might, if the Royals would have paid the same exact contract, maybe he's even worse than the Royals because, you can't hit home runs out of Kauffman Stadium, although Will Smith did. He won to center, too, right? Like center?
Yeah, shockingly, I know.
Can you hit one to center field?
And Kike Hernandez was well out of there in left center, by the way.
Right, can you hit? I guess you can hit one there. That's cool. Shohei hit one in the drink. That was cool as well. As we take a time out, I just want to, the comparison of looking at what Jack has done and then comparing it to what Bobby did in his first 23 games. Bobby was better, but it wasn't like Bobby was an all-star. So Jack Caglione is batting 165. Bobby was batting 240. Jack is getting on base at 211. Bobby got on base at 275.
Yeah.
Jack is slugging 271. Bobby was slugging 356. So it's a 631 OPS for Bobby and a 482 for Jack. So it's certainly better.
Yes.
in that standpoint. But like the extra base hits, Jack has 5, Bobby had 7.
Well, I think what really stood up for Bobby early on and what got him a lot of grace was his first game
Yes.
when he had the walk off. I mean that.
Well, the game-winning RBI.
The game-winning RBI. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, game-winning RBI. When you had the game, that was the 8th inning, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you had the game-winning RBI, I was at that game actually, by the way,
Yeah.
so I should know.
That
but
double down the
I'm
line.
almost worse when I'm at the game. I forget
And then
things
you make
more often.
Yeah, and then you make the great play at third to
Yes.
to get the guy out at home.
And so when you do that, you get a lot more grace. I
Mm-hmm.
still remember, I think it was Mike Jacobs, of all people. It was Mike Jacobs and I think Rick Ankiel. Rick Ankiel, I believe, his opening day with the Royals hit a walk-off RBI. And it was like a broken bat over like the shortstop. And I remember, I think it was him instead of one of those two. And I remember going, it was like 3 weeks in, and that was like his only hit. I'm like, yeah, but like we saw what he did. It was a walk. He has some grace from me because he came through in a big-time moment. Bobby bought a lot of grace off of that first game. Cags hasn't had that moment because he had the 2-home run game was great. We loved that, but a big time moment. What happened? It was a
rough.
double play.
Yeah, it sucked. Bobby in his first 23 games had 5 doubles, 1 triple, and a home run. Cags has 3 doubles and 2 home runs. But here's what's kind of fascinating. Bobby in his first 23 games had 3 walks and 20 strikeouts. Jack Caglione has 4 walks and 20 strikeouts in the first 23 games.
It's the Royals process, baby.
So he's got 1 more walk than Bobby did in that time. Both of them viewed as free swingers. But, I mean, Bobby also, his 23rd game, like he went 2 for 4. And so, like, if you wanted to skew the stats a little bit, you can be like, well, his first 22 games, he was only batting .229. He only got on base at .264, which is better than, it's closer to 2. Like, he OPS'd at .631, or excuse me, OPS at .614.
Yeah.
Instead of .631, But, first 23 games, that's what 7 extra base hits for Bobby, 5 extra base hits for Jack. Both of them struck out 20 times. Jack had 2 home runs. Bobby had 1. Jack is not going to get a triple. So Bobby had a triple and 5 doubles. So let's even say that's, 6 doubles and a home run as opposed to 3 doubles and 2 home runs for Jack. It hasn't been even – it's been worse than what Bobby's first 23 games were, which were not stellar. But we also know that Bobby didn't just get to the big leagues and be Bobby Witt Jr. winning a batting title.
Oh, agreed. Yes.
It took a little bit for him to dig out of that hole because at one point he got down to – so I said his first 23 games he was batting .241. Game number 32, he was batting .211.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with a .250 on-base percentage.
Well, I remember that
So it's 9 more games. You're like, okay, he just went 2 for 4. Maybe he's going to break out of it. Well, 9 games later, he's dropped his batting average by 30 points.
The reason why I remember that was because wasn't it Julio Rodriguez who was going off for the Mariners at that exact time,
Yes.
and maybe it was Jeremy Pena as well. And I remember going, when are the Royals going to get a guy
That
who just comes up and
I believe that
and
was part of the conversation,
it was
right?
part of the conversation. It's
Can they just have somebody come up and be the man?
like Acuna came up and did it, and then Julio did it, and then you're looking in Houston, and it was Jeremy Pena. And so I remember that conversation very well now. And whether it's a Royals philosophy, whether it's just the guys they draft, whether it's just randomness,
Yeah.
it feels like that is a pretty big talking point. Is they don't always hit the ground running here in KC, but it doesn't mean that they're lost forever.
Right.
It also means show patience because I do think Cags is going to be a major part of the future.
He's going to be fine, and I think he should be fine while continuing to be in the big league lineup because this is where he's going to learn to break out of it. This is part of they wanted him to struggle in the minors to see how he then adjusted.
Yes.
And remember, he went on that 2 for 25 stretch, and then he started batting .430. Now, I'm not saying he's going to bat .430, but he showed that he had a prolonged stretch of struggling and then adjusted back and then got hot. That was a AA. AAA, he never really had a struggle because he was just mashing.
Yeah.
He's going to figure it out. The guy doesn't come up to the big leagues and hit the ball 110 miles an hour 8 different times in 8 games and then forget how to hit the ball hard. He's going to. He's not barreling it as much. That's going to happen again, and I think he's going to be perfectly fine, and he's going to be a big piece of this Royals team for the next 4 or 5 years, 6 years, hopefully 7, 8, 9, hopefully 10 years for Jack Caglione. He's going to hit a ton of home runs, whether it's in Kauffman Stadium or somewhere else. He might hit one in Yellowstone. I'm not sure. He can hit it. He can hit a baseball over the mountains. Just as he can throw football over the mountains. We'll take a time out. Go ahead.
By the way, side note, very quickly.
Yeah.
Chris Bubich warmed up throwing a football. Which,
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on with pitchers today.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing. Alec Lewis, good friend, Alec Lewis, right? Was in KC for a long time.
Great friend.
Now covering the Vikings, I believe, up there in Minnesota.
He is, you believe correctly.
Alec Lewis, good dude though, and he let me know that that's actually a pretty common thing, not super common, but he said it went back to the Mariners a while ago that they were actually, I believe, the first team to really start doing this. So I thought that was pretty interesting. That okay. So if you ever see
you see a lot of youth kids too in training and going through pitching programs and stuff. They'll be throwing footballs around different camps and everything. So
if you see a pitcher throwing it with a football instead of a baseball to warm up, don't think they're just playing around for fun.
Yeah.
That it's a legit thing they do.
Anthony Richardson throws a rugby ball pregame to warm up. It's true. Of course, he gets into a game and still can't throw a football. Maybe he should try warming up with a football instead of a rugby ball. More so next. text comes in, and the text is to us, but I think it's a good question of a text to just people in general. Because my answer to this is it's well past for me. But the question is, how much more has to happen for you to stop believing a breakout is coming? Now, here's the thing. I don't believe a break. Now, that was before we talked about Jack. So that was just talking about the Royals having 9 on Saturday and then following it up with 1, having 0-0 or 1-0-0 against the Rays. That how much more has to happen for you to stop believing that a breakout is coming? I was just saying in general on Saturday when they score 9, you're like, okay, well, maybe this is, you score 4 the night before. You were struggling against the Rays. You score 0 in back-to-back games, and then boom, inning number 1 against the Dodgers. You're putting runs on the board. You get to 4. You have an opportunity there in the 9th inning to get a walk-off, and then Saturday you score 9. Sunday, first inning, okay, you get the double, and then unfortunately laced up the middle, but hits the mound, pop up, strikeout, ball game. Which is what it felt like at the time.
Yes.
But so how much more has to happen for you to stop believing a breakout is coming? I don't believe a breakout is coming. So, and maybe it's the texter saying that they don't believe it's coming either, or maybe the texter is saying, hey, I believe that a breakout is coming, but how much more has to happen for you to stop believing it's coming? I said last week, maybe it was Friday, that, we asked, would the Royals get back to 500? And my answer was no. Which then, by virtue of my answer being no, that I don't believe they get back to 500, which essentially says I do not believe they make the playoffs this year. And if they are not going to have a break, if they're not going to make the playoffs, it means that they did not have an offensive breakout, that they did not start hitting like the back of their baseball card. And it doesn't have to be that, this is where you get into the whole, flipping a coin 100 times, you'll have 50 heads and 50 tails in theory. But that's not really how it works, because if you have the first 17 being tails, it doesn't mean that the next 17 are going to be heads.
Yeah.
It means that from 18 on, it still remains a 50-50 chance.
Correct.
So from the next 82 could be 41-41. So it's not to say that, well, these players have to end the season with the back of their baseball card looking the same. No, can they play the second half of the season to what the back of their baseball card would say that they would with the first 83 games or whatever weighting them down? I don't believe that's happening.
But how often, full transparency, who's really playing under the back of their baseball card?
That's
Salvi?
a good point.
Salvi? Waters is who he is.
Yeah.
Fermin is who he is.
No, that's a great point,
Canna's
dude.
36. Cags doesn't have a baseball card yet, so we have nothing to go off of. Vinny, this is exactly, almost eerily exactly what the back of his baseball card is. I know we always think of him as a 300, this is who he is.
Garcia's playing like somebody else's baseball card.
Bobby Witt Jr. is slightly under, but it's nothing crazy. It's not crazy. And then India, as much as we like to complain, which I have, he's been under, but it's not drastic.
I've lost the hope from the standpoint that we're this deep into the season, Sterling, and there isn't a godfather of every time I think I'm out, they pull me right back in. Saturday didn't pull me back in. Saturday was a nice day. We'll see. If I'm going to get pulled back in, we're going to see what happens on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday before I get pulled back in and go, okay, all right. If they get back to 500 now, they've shown that they've had these ebbs and flows and these struggles, but can they go on a 17-4 stretch again like they did, and they're just finding ways to win? Okay, they pulled me back. I wasn't there on Saturday. I've been there so many times, right? Even after the Rangers series, like I was there to a degree. Like it was like, okay, they went to Texas. Now they're starting to hit the ball again. Maybe that's sort of a breakout against a good Texas team. This was when the schedule was going to get rough. And then they go and beat the Padres, and you're like, all right, feeling pretty good about this whole thing. But I think at this point now being, 5 games out, or 5 games under 500, I should say, and 4.5 games out, there isn't it would take a lot, Sterling, offensively, consistently, for me to go, all right, I'm back in, that the offense is going to be good enough to get these guys back to the playoffs. Not back in the playoff hunt to where they're closer in the wild card than 4.5 games out and 5 teams ahead of them, 6 teams ahead of them, because the last wild card spot has to drop too.
Sure.
To get that last wild card spot, it's not to that, but it's would I feel like, okay, they're good enough that this team, if they did add another bat, hey, now that can really get them over the hump. What's another bat going to do for this offense right now?
I don't think a ton, because you need more than just one bat. Because here's a quick math of, this is just Sunday's lineup, by the way. This is not the Dodgers' best lineup. The Dodgers having Miguel Rojas and Kiki Hernandez in their lineup is not their best lineup. But I'm going through, and this is how many guys are worse than the worst batter in the Dodgers lineup. Waters is worse, OPS-wise. Fermina's worse, OPS-wise. Mark Canha's worse, OPS-wise. Jack Caglione is worse, OPS-wise. Jonathan India is worse OPS-wise. Close because of his on-base percentage, but still worse. That's 5 right there, by the way.
Is compared to his career?
No, and this is just Sunday to Sunday lineup.
I'm sorry.
This
I
year.
missed that. You're talking about Dodgers. I'm sorry.
So
I missed that
this
part.
is the worst hitter in Sunday's lineup for the Dodgers, who typically is on the bench for them, by the way.
Yeah.
Versus the Royals starters. That's 5, mostly starters, I guess. And then Salvador Perez. Oh man, also close. I think Salvi just has it.
There you go. Take that.
6. 5. Actually, I think it's 6 because his on-base percentage is that much worse than Miguel Rojas. So 6 guys. Miguel Rojas would be the 4th best hitter on the Royals lineup right now. He is one of the worst bats, if not the worst bats, on the Dodgers, and that is the point I'm trying to make of. It's not just one guy. That is 6 guys.
So what if I threw out there, and this is just, because we're talking about back of the baseball card over the course of the season, or back of the baseball card from June 30th on. Last 30 games for India, he's OPSing at 722.
Yeah, league average.
So
nice.
Yeah, league average, 277 batting average, 6 walks, 17 strikeouts in his last 30 games. He does have, the 6 doubles and the 3 home runs.
He's
in
been
his last 30
he's
games.
been solid.
Yeah.
He's been solid.
On base is still, by the way, on base is at 311.
Man.
The 722 is carried by the 6 doubles and 3 home runs, the slugging that's there to get to 722, because that's over 400.
Which was not what he was brought in for.
No, he was brought in to get on base, and so his on-base percentage, quite frankly, shouldn't be 40 points higher than his batting average. I was hoping it would be 100 points, a 240, 340, 250, 350.
Should not be 2 points higher than Freddie Fermin.
Yeah, because I don't care if he's batting 280 if he's getting on base at 311. I want him to get on base.
Yes.
I don't care if his batting average is 200 if his on-base percentage is 400.
Yeah,
I mean, who cares?
That's
like,
his
he's only
job.
He's only batting 200. Great. He's getting on base 4 out of every 10 times he comes to the plate.
To Max Muncy.
Yeah, right. I mean, but the 277 and 311 is not what he was brought in to do, and that's a hot stretch of 28 games, his best stretch of the season for him. That's part of the problem. Text comes in at 913-912-4810 and says, thing about Jonathan India is he won Rookie of the Year 4 years ago, and he's been just very mediocre ever since then.
But we were hoping for mediocrity.
At the number 1 spot, yes.
Like, full transparency, I didn't have any...
Not historically bad.
Yes.
Just mediocre.
I didn't have any delusions of him coming here and being a
Yeah.
280, 360, 400, 420 guy. I didn't expect that. I expected the career norms basically of 250, 350, 390. That's more or less what I expected from India. I expected him to be just above league average with his bat, slightly below average with his glove, but he's been horrendous with his glove, and he's been below average with the bat. So I still make the move, by the way. I know there's a lot of people who are going, well, I don't know. Then now it's a horrible trade. Brady Singer is not helping this team in any way. And this is nothing against Brady Singer. I think Brady Singer did a phenomenal job last year. I was higher on him than maybe almost anyone out here. I was very high on Singer last year. I thought what he did was outstanding. But end of the day, he's got a 4.3 ERA. He's been Lorenzen this year.
Seems like a pretty fair trade.
I mean, he's been Michael Lorenzen.
Yeah.
And as much as I like Brady, he's not. And if you want to make the K versus Cincinnati argument, okay, I'll entertain it. But still, point remains: Singer's not doing anything to make this team 6 games better, which is they're not.
The problem with India is this goes back to the Hunter Renfroe, MJ Melendez. That hey, you're not producing in the outfield, but you're also not playing good defense. Like Jonathan India is not producing the way that he should be producing at the plate of what you traded for, but he makes up for it by being brutal at second.
Yeah, his career average I was pretty close, 252, 348, 402 slug for an OPS of 750. That's good. Yeah. That's above league average. You will take that. I will take that. That's what I thought the Royals were getting. That's all I expected him to be. I didn't expect him to have this incredible improvement.
I wanted him to get on base and work the count and have great at-bats and just be like, man, what a great at-bat that was. Like Drew Waters the other day, a 1-2 count turned into a walk because he was taking borderline pitches, fouling off strikes, and then got a borderline pitch that he spit on and jogged down to first. I'm like, you know what, that is a hell of an at-bat for Drew Waters. Problem is, there's like 1 or 2 of those a game. And there's like, 20 of those a game for the Yankees, even though the Yankees have been struggling and everything. But what we've talked about in sort of at-bats and approaches, I thought that was going to be India way more times than not taking a strike down the middle or on the inside part of the plate for strike 3.
And what did the Royals did in the 9th inning? The Royals in the 9th inning decide we're just going to work the count. We're going to make him work. It's the closer. He's going 1 inning.
Yeah.
Do it in the 1st inning, you dumb bleeps. Like I get so annoyed. Like, congrats! You made their non-closer, but pitched the 9th, throw 20 pitches. Nice way to work the count in the 9th inning.
Text says 913-912-4810. Texter says a breakout for the Royals will happen when they trade someone and officially wave the white flag on the season. They couldn't handle the pressure coming off playoffs this year. Once pressure is gone, they will rake. I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with that.
Detroit did that last year too, by the way. Sometimes once the pressure gets lifted, it becomes a little easier.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with that at all. And I mean, at this point, I'm going to be annoyed if they buy.
Well, if Reagans comes back sooner rather than later, then that means you only have to make up a couple starts if you trade Seth Lugo, because then you still have a full rotation of 5. Because Noah Cameron is now officially in your 5, right? So basically, if you trade Lugo, you got to make up 2 or 3 starts by the time, hopefully, Reagans is back.
The priority and what JJ, John Sherman, the front office, who they owe it to, and their responsibility and their loyalty should be to the health of the organization in whether that be 26 or 27, and not what does it take to sneak into the playoffs in 25. Would it be a big deal if they made back-to-back playoffs? Yeah.
I hope they do.
Sure.
It'd be amazing.
Happened in 14 and 15. That's cool. But is it a big deal if they make back-to-back playoffs and lose the wild card this year and you bought?
Do you want to make the playoffs as the Steelers over the last 5 years, or the Chiefs and Bills and Bengals?
Yeah, right.
Like, do you want to compete in the playoffs, or do you just want to go
in Joe Burrow's time, they've made the playoffs twice, right? And they've gone to the AFC Championship game, or they're going to the Super Bowl in the AFC Championship game. Royals in 14 and 15 going to World Series, both of those. Last year, they went to the Divisional Series, left New York with a 1-1 series tie. That was rough. But this year, if they lose in the wild card, what's that do? As opposed to if you were to move Lugo, what you could get back in return, or another player, what you could get back in return for setting up for 2026, as opposed to, oh, you made the playoffs, right. And there's this player on this other team that you don't have because you barely made the playoffs, and Lugo's opting out and going somewhere else, and now you don't have Lugo either.
That's a really interesting point. I like the NFL comparison you made. Dylan, not Jason. Dylan.
piggybacked off Jason.
Well, it's who would you rather be? Would you rather be the Steeler the last 6 years, 5 years? Obviously, you take the franchise. The last 5 or 6 years, who would you rather be? Steelers or the Bengals? And as much as we ripped on the Bengals, and obviously the Royals won a World Series, so it's not completely apples to apples. But still, you would take the Bengals of going farther, making a Super Bowl, AFC championship. I mean, congrats to the Steelers for perpetually going 9-8 and occasionally sneaking in. Mm-hmm. But who would you rather be? I mean, maybe some people would pick the Steelers. Maybe some would, and baseball is different than football as far as I actually think football would be a little easier because it's only a one game that you have to win versus you have to win multiple in baseball.
And you're only picking the Steelers based off the blind trust you're having in the past.
Correct.
It's not like, oh, this is awesome going to the playoffs and barely competing. You're only trusting them more so because they've done it in the past before.
But also, who would I want to be moving forward, too?
Right.
Like, I'd much rather be in the Bengals position moving forward
100%.
than having Aaron Rodgers and whatever they're going through there in Pittsburgh versus
Because you already have the guy.
Yeah, you've got those guys on offense, and now you got to figure out defensively. You got to figure out what you're going to do with Trey Hendrickson and Shamar Stewart and other things there. But at least offensively, you feel like you've got that part of it down. We'll see. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling more zone next. Nine 912-4810. Text comes in, says, text are spot on. The breakout will happen when the Chiefs preseason starts and no one cares. I mean, text says the Royals need to be sellers just to send a message to the current players that this isn't working and not acceptable. I'm okay with that, too. That's also part of the Alex Zumwalt conversation.
Yes.
Because just simply going through and saying, no, tomorrow we'll figure it out. 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 Look, every day is an individual day. We don't carry things over. We have a big win. It doesn't matter. Today's a new day. Just like the morning. From 6 in the morning until we get on the air. It's a new day.
With Steven St. John.
And with the Royals and with Q. New day with Matt Q. That was the original name of the show. They changed it to SSJ.
Ah, okay.
Quattrero said he wasn't available every day. So it's a brand new day no matter what happens the day before. Okay, that's fine. But it's also part of the Alex Zumwalt conversation of, hey, if today's a brand new day, yesterday doesn't matter. But it does. It does matter. Because if today's a brand new day and it's only viewed as that day in a vacuum, well, then every single person in your bullpen should be available every single day. And every single day should be your maximum lineup that you throw out there every single day. If we're going by the truest extent of yesterday doesn't matter and tomorrow doesn't matter and today's the only thing that matters and we focus on that, then you shouldn't have a Sunday lineup, right?
Yes.
You should have an everyday. This is the best lineup we can put out there today. Our bullpen, everybody's ready to go. But we know that's not the case. So yesterday does matter. And tomorrow matters. Today certainly matters as well. It's called the present. It's a gift from God. You know, That's why they call it the present. Today matters. But the first 83 games mattered as well. And you've been so far underperforming that there needs to be at least some sort of a message of what's been going on isn't acceptable. And if you don't think it's Alex Zumwalt's fault, then it's your fault. But there are people that will be held accountable. We're not playing for fun. This is a business. You're a professional. There's going to be consequences when you don't get the job done.
How could it be that what you need the most can leave you feeling like a ghost? You never want to feel so sad and lost again? We're starting up a brand new day, says Sting.
And SSJ. One Royal Way podcast coming up at noon. Learn Funniest Best coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. May 16th, 2022. Had to go back and find out when it was. And this is where the point comes in of, again, not saying that the entire issue here is Zumwalt. And again, we've talked about this. We talked about this on Friday, maybe even Thursday as well, that, like, I don't, come on the air and say, well, fire this guy, fire that guy sucks, fire him. Fire. That's not a Beavis and Butthead show, right? I mean, that part of it's not a Beavis and Butthead show. The other part's totally. That was the original name, but the copyright, we couldn't get it cleared. The Zumwalt part of it is not that, okay, you fire him, everything's going to be fixed, okay? I said it on Friday. I hope the Royals go out and just start raking. And we can go, okay, it wasn't Zumwalt. They were all just sort of in their heads. And he was trying everything he could, and there is no hitting coach that would have been able to make a difference with that team. And they got to score, 13 runs. those 2 nights, it's like, okay, well, there you go. And then they back that up by scoring 1 and no runs in the final 8 innings. And now we'll see what they do in Seattle. But it's sort of the point of when you fired Terry Bradshaw, May 16th of 2022. Terry Bradshaw, maybe you should have tried Terry Bradshaw, the quarterback. I don't know. But you fired Terry Bradshaw at the time. You promoted Zumwalt in the interim basis as a sort of a shakeup, if you want to call it that, to the coaching staff. And that was in 2022. That was Bobby Witt's rookie season. So you bring up Zumwalt. Why? Well, he has a relationship with some of these guys that are playing at the big league level now, right? Bobby MJ was up at that time in 2022, certainly. So he's got a relationship with some of these guys that he's worked with down in the minors, and now these younger guys are advancing through the system. So we're going to bring up Zumwalt in the interim for the rest of the season, and then at the end of the year, we'll find the guy we're going to go and hire. But they did well enough that they thought, well, maybe we just keep him on. What you did there was say, when we are moving on from Terry Bradshaw, we are not moving on from Terry Bradshaw because Zumwalt is the guy. That Zumwalt has prepared, he's ready, he's the next hitting coach in waiting. There are other teams that are coming and calling. They want to hire Zumwalt as their hitting coach. We got to make a move now because this is the next guy. What the Chiefs tried to do with Kafka for a number of years.
Yeah.
While Eric Bieniemy was attempting to get jobs, and the Chiefs kept blocking Kafka from getting interviews with other teams until eventually they could not block him again, and they realized that Bieniemy wasn't getting a job anytime soon, and so Kafka goes on and coaches with the New York Giants. That was somebody that they believed in that they did not want to let go. They fired Terry Bradshaw, and they bring up Zumwalt in the interim because he had a relationship with the guys, not because this is our next hitting coach. And then they did well, so they hung on to him. And 2023 happens. 2024 was pretty successful. And now we're seeing it this go around. So is this 83 games that should not mean the end of a job because of what they saw in 2022, 23, and 24? That maybe he was ready for that? I don't know. But you did say at the time, he wasn't the guy you were going to hire full time. He was a guy you were simply promoting to the big leagues, and then you would find somebody to take that spot. He just probably exceeded your expectations. But has he exceeded your expectations, Sterling, as an organization to the point to where he becomes a guy that you just don't fire this guy, you don't move this guy, or reassign? I'm not even saying fire Zumwalt.
Yeah.
You can couch it as a reassigning. You can couch it as well, the original plan was this with Zumwalt, blah, 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 and now we're going to reassign him because we need to put him down in the minors because we got some guys that are struggling again. We need to tap into Gavin Cross. We need to figure something. We're going to put Zumwalt down there because he was so good at tapping into Vinny and Massey and MJ. So we're going to move him back down there so he can get those guys up, and we're going to find somebody else. Maybe you can sell it that way. Nobody's going to buy it. But you can try to sell it that way. But you also, at the beginning, said how much you believed in him, which was you believed in him in an interim basis, but not you're moving on from Terry Bradshaw because you got to have Zumwalt in that spot.
Correct. And I have no idea, zero idea, how you have 3 guys, 84 games into a season, 3 guys with an OPS over 670.
3 guys with an OPS plus. 4 guys, Luke Mail.
Yeah, if you count Luke Mail. I've talked about that many times. I've stopped counting my Luke Mail fun stats because they're no longer fun.
I know. It's been a while. You even forget that he was on the team. But 3 guys, to your point.
And keep your job. I'm sorry. Like that to me is absurd. Just for those wondering, we bring these numbers up, and maybe to everyone doesn't know some of the OPS numbers. League average any given year, typically anywhere from, it used to be 720-ish in a few years ago. It's gone down a little bit. It kind of varies, but we'll say 715, 710, 715. That's the league average for OPS. The Royals, again, have only 3 guys above 670. 3 guys above 665. That is hilariously bad. I mean, The fewest runs scored per game was what it once was going into this Dodgers series, lower than the Pirates. I don't know how you keep your job. With a team with expectations, by the way. It's not like this was a team that was planning on going to the White Sox. You had expectations. I have no idea. Zero idea how you could say that's acceptable. Now, again, I'm with you. You don't have to fire the guy like completely from the organization, and you have it in your pocket of this was the plan originally, was just an interim. You have the plan. It is simple. Staples, click it. Click the Staples button. It's easy.
Easy button.
I am perplexed at the lack of, and maybe I shouldn't be, but the lack of fire from this team all season long.
What did you say the league average OPS was in your mind?
Typically about 715-ish.
Okay. So last year was 711, this year 714. So well done.
Thank you. Yay.
League average in OPS this year for Major League Baseball is 714. So well done.
Thank you.
You nailed it. But we know that league average OPS plus is 100.
Correct.
Or just an average player is just 100.
Yes.
You're just simply replacement level average at that point, and who's batting better than what would be your average player. 3 guys. So they have everybody else on this team that has been at the plate and has been worse by a number of degrees in percentage than what would be an average player. And it's, it's disappointing. I don't know if they are able to, if that one move does anything, if that moves the needle with fans, or if it's a too little too late at this point moving the needle with the fans. Because one of the questions I was going to ask for the show today is like, I mean, when do they lose the fans? When do fans become apoplectic? When do they just become casual observers of the Royals like they were in 23?
Agnostic,
right? When do they just not care anymore? And they're going out to the game for
nihilists.
the other team.
They're nihilists
Is
now,
that right?
man.
They go out to the masochists if you're going out there to hope that you have some, enjoyment watching the Royals offensively. But when do you lose the fans? And this weekend was interesting because you went to Saturday and Sunday. There were a lot of Dodgers fans there, and Saturday was a lot of fun. But Sunday, there was a defeatist feeling once that 2-run shot left the yard.
Correct. It was dead. I mean, my wife, a lot of the game was she couldn't believe at that many people that quiet. I mean, it was just quiet.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best way. There was no. Very rarely do the Royals give you anything to get excited about. They get a hit. Oh, nice. 2 outs. Lovely. Nice. We had a single 2 outs. That's great. We got a walk with 2 outs. It's just, they're boring. I've talked about it many times. Don't get me wrong. I had a great time going to the game. I love the K.
The games are fun.
Food was great. It was a really good time with friends, with family. I will always love going to Royals games, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But the product was just, Saturday was great.
Yeah.
But Sunday, it's just, you can't be bad and boring.
Well, what it allows you to do is there's almost like a positive to this to a degree. When those games are going on Sunday, it allows you to socialize and move around and do everything else at the ballpark because you don't really have to pay attention to what's going on in the game because they're losing this one, so let's go out in the outfield and let's socialize.
Yeah.
Let's go over here. Let's go, do some things.
And they
let's
have
go
good
meet
deals,
up
by
with
the
some
way.
friends.
They have good deals. I mean, we went
Try
to
the merry-go-round,
Saturday. We saw Shohei Ohtani pitch.
So let's throw my arm out, seeing how fast I can throw in the gun,
tickets. $18 tickets. We were able to
Yeah.
go watch Shohei Ohtani and Bobby Witt Jr., right?
Yeah.
Sunday, we got the family 4-pack. We had good seats. Good seats for the Royals-Dodgers, $40 which a piece, which came with good seats, free parking, a hot dog, and a soda.
Yeah.
Which, although Casey Moe was having that water issue, so the sodas weren't tasting quite
Is that right?
very good.
Is that right?
But the point remains.
Sorry for your loss.
Yeah, it was huge. No, but again, there are. I know everyone likes to. Don't get me wrong. It's not cheap to go out to games, especially if you have a large family. I'm not saying it's cheap, but they're not.
The family 4-pack does make it more doable. I
They're
will say
not.
that.
They're not price gouging you.
Yeah.
I don't think that the Royals are out here and Sherman's out here price gouge. Like, look around.
It's just the offense is eye gouging you.
They're eye gouging you. I mean, you can get they have pretty good deals if you're trying to go more cost effective. Like, I've actually commended the Royals for a lot of what they've done. Now, if you want to get the big ass beers and all that stuff, yeah, it's gonna be more expensive. But you can get, I think, like a Miller Lite 12-ounce beer for $5 if you really want to get a beer. Peanuts for $5. But like, they have some deals out there that are reasonable for what you'd expect for most, stadiums. Tickets, I think, are in line. I think they're fair for a team that made the playoffs last year. It just, you got to be more exciting, and that's what it comes down to is when you're not scoring runs. I love watching the pitcher's duel. I love watching it, but once you give up 2 runs like the Royals did, you just knew the game was over and how good Chris Bubich was or how good he was going to pitch from then on.
Yeah.
By the way, he was great for 5
really
innings.
good, yeah.
I still have some questions of Q pulling him early yet
it's an
again.
elevated pitch count. I'm
83, 89 pitches.
Yeah, but I'm just
2-1 game, 89 pitches, and your bullpen's been ass. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
early on
in a game that you
early
need.
on in the game though he was
Early on he was.
he was
and then he settled
working-
down.
He was working harder early on the game.
He did.
To me, it was like
You got the double play, and I go, he might go one
right,
more.
But I was like, does it matter if he goes one more or not?
Sure,
Because
'cause the
losing
Royals-
2-1 or 5-1 is all the same, So do you want to throw another inning on Bubich's arm in a game where you're not going to score runs?
You're probably right. I guess my thought was the Royals bullpen has been really
Yeah.
bad, and no one wants to talk about it because the offense has been so bad. So
I know, yeah.
it's a little bit of a secondary issue because if you're not scoring, who cares about the bullpen?
Yeah, but
Sam Long, by the way, needs to be long gone from this team. But yeah, I just the fans to me was very noticeable at a 30,000 plus place.
Yeah.
How quiet it
Yeah.
was.
So 913-912-4810. We have the issue that's going to be taking place July 7th when the Star Bonds will be voted on in Kansas to have the extension. We talked a lot about it on Friday. We talked about it with Matt Derrick. And one of the things that we were discussing, and I asked Matt, part of the Chiefs asking for the extension for the Star Bonds and that letter from Mark Donovan, how much of that was, no, they're serious moving forward with their plans for Kansas, and how much is it a leverage play for Missouri? And I think there's obviously a little bit of both. But I don't want to, I feel like the leverage play is almost getting dismissed to a degree because of how strongly worded the Mark Donovan letter was. Because I don't think the Mark Donovan letter could be flippant to ask for them to come back together on July 7th to vote to extend this thing another year, 6 months, whatever. It couldn't just be, hey, we'd really like to extend this because we're still trying to figure some things out, Oh, really? You're still trying to figure some things out? What are the things that you're trying to figure out? Because Missouri passed their Show Me State Sports Investment Act, but it is also included with the local investment, that there needs to be that local investment that goes along with it. Well, while Jackson County and Kansas City, Clay for the Royals, but for the Chiefs as well, trying to figure out what the local investment will be and how much you can get there as the Royals are meeting with Clay and the Royals are meeting with Jackson County, and the Chiefs are certainly doing that with Jackson County. How much can you get locally? Well, if you let the Star Bonds expire, you have done the same thing that you did how many years ago when John Sherman said, we are not moving to Kansas. We are staying in Missouri. You have taken Kansas off the board. Willingly, you took Kansas off the board. You took Kansas off the board by offering that up to Missouri. It's like, oh, no, Kansas is not going to be a part of this. And that to where maybe that was a good faith effort by John Sherman to say, I am not trying to pit Missouri and Kansas against each other.
Sure.
I am not trying to do that. We want to move downtown. We think it's in the best interest of Kansas City, and we're going to come up with a deal that is good for both parties without having this threat to Jackson County, the state of Missouri, the city, that we're going to move. across state lines to Kansas. And that didn't work. It didn't work. And so now they've got the star bonds that were passed pretty quickly after that whole thing happened. If you let them expire, you don't have your local commitment on the money that's going to be there to coincide with what Missouri is offering, because you don't get a dime from Missouri if the local commitment is not there, if they don't get local financing, if they don't get public money from the local aspect of it, whether that be Clay or North Kansas City or whatever. By letting the star bonds expire, you would have made the same mistake that you made a number of years ago by saying Kansas is no longer on the table. We're only negotiating with Missouri. And therefore, we might have to settle for a pretty bad deal because we're not going to get the money for 50% of the stadium if we don't have any money locally. So this may not be the actual best deal that we can get. I'm not going to dismiss the Chiefs and the Royals using the star bonds as leverage to get a better deal in Missouri locally. Because, again, they have to get money locally. And I can't remember what the correct term was, whether it's substantial or impactful or something along the lines there. There's not a specific dollar amount or percentage that's connected to what the local portion, the local piece of this whole thing has to be.
Sure.
But it's going to have to be good enough now that the Chiefs or the Royals say, this is actually a better deal than the 70% in the star bonds over on Kansas, what you're presenting locally. It would be bad business to allow the star bonds to expire.
Agreed.
For both these teams. But it would also be bad business for Kansas to then extend the star bonds if Mark Donovan was just flippant about, well, I mean, we're still thinking about Kansas.
Because then they're just using you as a pawn.
No, we'll bleep you. We're not going to be used as leverage with Missouri. It's not going to happen. Now, if they truly believe that there is going to be some sort of a good faith effort, doesn't have to necessarily be a commitment, but a feeling that they are heading in the direction of a commitment,
sure,
then you can extend the star bonds. That's going to be interesting on July 7th. The expectation is that they're going to be extended. They haven't been extended yet. They've simply asked for that. And what happens between now and July 7th, I think, is going to be pretty important for the Royals and the Chiefs to present to Kansas that, no, we're serious about the prospects of moving over here. This isn't just a leverage play. Well, then you have to show substantially that it's not just a leverage play, while at the same time trying to figure out what's going on the Missouri side. Because when are you going to get an idea from the Missouri side of when this thing is, when are you going to get a commitment from the Missouri side of what the local addition's going to be? Because you're going to have to pick out a spot soon. And the Chiefs, it seems pretty obvious. Arrowhead or Kansas.
Yeah.
For the Royals, there's 3 different counties they're looking at. Jackson County downtown, Clay County, or Johnson County. Maybe Wyandotte, but probably not, since the Hesperia campus seems to be the spot if they move to Kansas. So they have 3 counties to choose from to figure out where the location's going to be. So, and they're the ones that feel like it has to happen sooner. They're the ones that feel like, no, our time is shortened. We need to have more of a sense of urgency because we're not going to play at the K.
Yeah.
We have already said that. We will not be playing at the K past 2030. The Chiefs are okay renovating Arrowhead.
Well, and also, I do wonder, I don't know for sure, but we've heard about the concrete cans, but I wonder at some point if they would have to put money in a place that they know they're going to have to move out of, and they're sitting here going, for health purposes or for structural. That would be worst case scenario is we got to sink in a lot of money into a place that we know we're leaving, that we know we're not renovating because we know it's unsustainable. We know down the road it's going to collapse or whatever. I don't know the exact.
Well, I mean, I don't know if they can
terminology.
I don't know if they can amend the lease, but I think the way that it's written right now, if you stay past the lease, I think you have to sign a 5-year lease.
And so the Royals, they have
And they certainly don't want to.
their hands
They don't want
tied.
to play through 2030. They don't want to play there through 2035. They don't want to play there through 2030.
But again, that's kind of my point is you don't know what's going on structurally and how much money would have to be sunk in just to
Yeah.
keep it to code. All of those underlying things that no one cares about, no one thinks about. That's a lot of money that could potentially be sunk in. It's almost like the stuff in your car that you don't think about. And you're like, oh, dang, the underbody of my Jeep, someone stole my catalytic converter. I don't even use that. Yeah, but you got to have it, and we got to.
You do use it actually, and now you're going to use it at the tune of $1,000 more to
Yeah,
replace
and
it.
so, I just think there's a lot of things on the Royals side that need to get figured out. Either build it by my house so I can walk there, or go downtown.
I'm fine with Clay.
I've now
I'm
gone
fine with
to
either one, Clay or downtown. I'm just not fine with the Kansas. part of it.
well, but I can walk there. So for selfish, again, I'm a
it.
selfish man.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that. But at least I'm honest about it, right?
true.
Credit to me for being honest
That's
about my
true.
selfishness.
That's true. But
So either build it by me or go to
Washington's
downtown
Square Park.
because downtown would be downtown baseball is I've come around on it, especially if you're going to leave the K. They're leaving the K,
Yeah.
so that means I've had to adjust my thoughts, which means downtown baseball is actually pretty damn fun when you go to other downtown baseball venues around the country and go, that's actually pretty sweet. It was nice being able to grab a beer prior to the game or doing something after the game and hanging around down there. It is helpful. Don't get me wrong, I love Sunday, but we had a little more difficult. We're sitting here going, okay, we're going to the game. What are we doing after the game for dinner? You can't just go around.
It ain't gonna be $18 though. Like it ain't gonna be, hey, let's just go to the game and grab a beer. It's gonna be like for cheap seats, 67 to
It might
80
be.
bucks, and that's fine.
I
if
don't
you're
know.
If you're not selling any tickets, you're going to have to lower the
Yeah,
price.
I
at that
disagree
point.
with
for sure,
that.
but I'd rather them actually be able to sell a good product than be able to get cheap tickets. In my opinion, as a fan, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have anybody going to the game, you're
I
gonna have
mean,
to
we
lower
went
the
to
ticket
Bush,
prices.
which is downtown, for like $18.
Well, it is the only thing in town to do, but yeah, that's more to your
I don't know,
point.
fight each other in the street feels like it was a pretty common occurrence.
Or the
Is that right?
Blues.
St. Louis.
Oh, okay.
No, I just
I
talking about
didn't know.
St. Louis. I was just.
Okay, great. The question that I'll have is,
And any new ballpark, by the way, is going to have higher ticket prices just
Yeah.
because it's a nicer stadium
Agreed.
and a nicer area.
and nicer suites, and then
Yes. Amenities, all that stuff.
yeah, for sure. The question I'll have is, when the Royals move into their new ballpark, will we still be asking, are they going to fire Zumwalt or not? All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels, heading up until 2 o'clock. We'll talk with Joel Penfield coming up at noon. We'll get some Learn Funniest Best coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. 913-912-4810 is the text line to join us. 913-912-4810. Text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. We talked a decent amount about the Royals, obviously, in the first hour. Maybe too much. I don't know. I mean, it's beauty in the eye of the beholder.
Got it out of the
and all
way
that
for the
stuff.
week now. We can talk about anything else.
Yeah, that's right. Beauty in the eye of the beholder and all of those things as well. This question was asked over the weekend, and I was like, you know what? I actually want to discuss that on the air. And it has to do with Mahomes. It has to do with the Kansas City Chiefs. Mahomes turning 30 this year. I don't know how many more years he has left.
What?
Hopefully he'll play till he's 40.
30, 40.
More years?
Today's technology seems...
That's a good point. Yeah, you can rebuild him. We have the technology.
Yes,
You know,
he's like Gumby.
he's
So
he's the
how
new-
old's Gumby?
Will be the instead of the $1 million man, he'll be the $1 billion man. So we have the technology. We can rebuild him.
You know how old Gumby is?
75.
69.
Nice.
So
He was pretty flexible.
I think Mahomes could play until he's 69 because he's like Gumby. So
Yeah.
that's just simple math.
No, I mean, I'm with you on that one. I hope that's the case. So let's be realistic and say maybe, I don't know, 40. And so maybe 10 more years for Patrick Mahomes. Hopefully it's more, obviously. Hopefully it's more. But let's say it's 10 more years. This question was asked. If Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs only win one more Super Bowl with him at quarterback the next 10 years, is that a disappointing stretch? Is it disappointing if Mahomes and the Chiefs win one Super Bowl the rest of his career? Unless he plays to 69 years old, then I'd say that would be disappointing for 29 years of him.
So we're saying
39 years.
10 more years then, right?
So 10 more years over the next decade. If they only, using only, as if it's something negative, but we'll get into that, only win one more Super Bowl, is it disappointing for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs?
It's a great question.
Thank you.
It wasn't your question, though.
No, it was not. But it was, as far as you know.
Because you look back at his career the totality of his career, that'd be 18 years, 4 Super Bowls. I think you'd clearly say that's a success.
Yeah.
But the fact that 3 came in the first 8, and then it would be 1 in 10, and by the way, it'd be basically 1 in 7, or 3 and 7 because he played 1 game that week 18, right? So I think it would be. And maybe that makes me
stupid.
No, because Packers fans and
Are you looking for the word spoiled?
Spoiled, yeah, I'd say spoiled.
I wouldn't say you're spoiled. I would say that might be the word you're looking for.
I'd say spoiled is probably the word I'm looking for.
I'm staying with stupid.
I'm not going there.
Both. They don't have to be mutually exclusive, by the way. Stupid and
silly.
My
and
offer stands. My submission stands.
Spoiled. Yeah, maybe it would make you spoiled a little bit.
Delusional?
Yeah.
No, I don't think delusional is the right word.
Dylan, so you would say yes on that one?
I would say yes. I would say yes.
I'm going to say no.
1 in 10 years, you said?
If Mahomes retires and he wins only one more Super Bowl with the Chiefs, is that disappointing for Mahomes?
Well, and I said totality, I would say no. I said, is it disappointing if he ends up with, if you look back in 20 years, you say he won 4 Super Bowls in 18 years or 17 years as a starter.
Yeah.
You'd say yes, you're taking that. But I'm just saying, one more over the next 10. I feel like in that 10-year stretch, yes, I would be disappointed if that clears that up a little bit.
No, it totally does. The reason I say no, and I don't know that it's if somebody says yes if they're spoiled or delusional or stupid. We're obviously just joking there with that, but. This is just what we're witnessing is so uncommon. And what we're witnessing is just something that doesn't happen, which makes it so rare and an outlier.
There's no one in NFL history besides Kurt Warner, and he doesn't count because he didn't sustain it, that has started off this good and continued to be this good. It always takes
5 Super
Brady
Bowls
a couple
in
years.
6 years.
And even when he won, you would always point towards the defense and the coach, his first 3 Super Bowls. All of the Super Bowls Mahomes has won, you could attribute to him.
Yeah, 5 Super Bowls in 6 years obviously is absurd because that's never happened. And what if they go to 2 more Super Bowls? What if they go to 3 more Super Bowls and he wins 1 more? And so right now he's 3-1 in the Super Bowl or 3-2 in the Super Bowl? Jeez,
that would literally be Brady's career up until 2014 because he went to the undefeated.
Yeah, it'd be 4-4 in his career in 8 Super Bowls. 4 Super Bowls in 8 tries. So he goes to 8 Super Bowls and he wins 4 of them. And he would retire and the Chiefs would have 5 Lombardi trophies when Mahomes is done. And I know that the conversation could be separating between the two. So from when he started to now has so far exceeded everyone's expectation. There's not a person on earth, including Brett Veach, that could have possibly thought that this would be the run for Mahomes as a starter in 7 years and going to 5 Super Bowls over the most recent 6-year stretch. And every single season, you make it to the AFC Championship game overtime or the Super Bowl. Like that there's nobody that could have predicted that. If you did, you would be called crazy or Nostradamus. And if you could have predicted that, then you should be, also making a lot more money in the gambling business. You should be Malik Beasley, allegedly. So you should be doing those things. But so if you separate those, so as you said, Sterling, in its totality, from start to finish, 4 Super Bowl championships, there is no world in which you would say that would be disappointing
Yes.
for a quarterback. But if you have a 10-year stretch where you have, quote-unquote, only 1 Super Bowl championship, is that disappointing? I think what happens is the previous 6 years so far outweigh and color your thoughts of what the next 10 can be that you're already imagining that there's going to be 2 or 3 more.
Correct. I
When
completely
when
agree with
one
that.
more isn't even guaranteed, though.
100%. But if you told me, let's say we're playing Deal or No Deal, right? We're playing. I'm Howie Mandel. I'm bald.
What's wrong with that?
No,
Oh,
nothing.
you're just presenting.
Just
your
presenting
look. Okay,
like
very good.
I'm presenting. I'm Howie Mandel. And Dylan, you have the case. Okay, you have the case, and it says 1 Super Bowl. Okay, you're the pretty lady. You're the pretty producer. You're holding the case up. It says 1 Super Bowl in it, and I ask you, Jason.
Yep.
Deal or no deal?
Oh, it's no deal.
So you're pressing the no deal button. You're pressing
But
the
I'm
thing
not
down.
saying I would be disappointed with that. What I'm saying is I'll take my chances with Mahomes and Reed to get 2 or 3 while risking 1. If they only get, oh, wow, it was 4.
Shoot, that wasn't the case. The case said 4.
Stupid. I should have taken the 4. There was 7 Super Bowl
Dang it.
championships I turned down because I was hoping there would be a case that would have, like, I don't know, 4 in it. Who knows? This other case could have 4 in it. I wouldn't be disappointed.
Go to the bank.
I don't think it's disappointing that if Mahomes has only, we're using air quotes here, 1 more Super Bowl the rest of his career. If we look at it compared to the first 7 years, yeah, I could see where that would be disappointing. But I also look at it when the Chiefs drafted Mahomes, and I go back to the Monday Night Football against the Denver Broncos and the left-handed pass and the great fourth quarter comeback that they had and how brilliant he was in the fourth quarter. And it wasn't just the left-handed pass. Because we often forget that after that left-handed pass, they then had a penalty, and it was like a 2nd and 25 that they then had to overcome again, 2nd and 25 and a 3rd and long, in which Mahomes did to then move the chains yet again to then score the touchdown, then add points after that to go and win that game in Denver. And I remember waking up the next morning, and at this point, we hadn't seen an AFC championship game in Kansas City since January of 94. So, like, playing in one, it had been divisional round and divisional round and divisional round and divisional round and divisional round, just not getting over the hump of playing in an AFC championship game, even to that extent. And waking up the next morning after the Denver Broncos come back in Mile High on Monday night. And I was explaining it to my wife, what happened the night before, and this left-handed pass, and it's just unbelievable, crazy. You know, and he had already had this unreal start to the season. And so I'm explaining everything to my wife of what happened the night before, and she's like, well, you've already said that how good he is, that he's, awesome and everything. And I'm like, yeah, but I've never seen something, like I've seen numbers being put up and some of these crazy throws, but like this dude threw it left-handed while being tackled by Von Miller from behind to pick up a first down. And she goes, well, then are they going to win the Super Bowl this year? I said, I don't know if they're going to win the Super Bowl this year, but for the first time in my life, I am confident and almost convinced that they have a quarterback that will win a Super Bowl. I'm talking about one will win a Super Bowl. What has happened since then is something that nobody could have dreamed of happening. And we're in the middle of it. And so if you would have said at that time, hey, Jason, over the next 10 years, Patrick Mahomes is going to hold a Lombardi trophy and the Super Bowl is going to happen in Kansas City. Not the game, but the Super Bowl is going to be won. The Chiefs are going to win that one. And there's going to be a Lombardi trophy returning back to Kansas City. I mean, that would have been all I could have hoped for at that time with where we were in the franchise's history. And so I know Chiefs fans are well aware, and they should be well aware, how incredibly rare this thing is. And that, the old saying of, well, they never tell you when you're in the good old days. We know we're in the good old days right now. We know we are in the golden era of Chiefs football, and there will never be a 6-year stretch like we just witnessed and went through again in Chiefs history. I would love for that to be the case, but I feel pretty strongly and confident that I'm on the right side of history percentage-wise and probability-wise that over the next 6 years it's going to be tough for them to go to 5 Super Bowls.
People like
in
to
6
reference
years.
the Jordan years of, Malone and
right.
Drexler. They didn't get rings. That only lasted 8 years, if you think about it.
Yeah.
And really 6 because he quit, and then Houston won 2 in a row, and then after that it was over.
Yeah.
So it wasn't forever.
But it was only one playoffs that he missed, though.
Right.
Because
That's true.
The
Yeah,
2 years
95
that,
he was back.
2 years that he missed, he played in the next playoffs, and in fact, he averaged more points, rebounds, and assists than he did in the next year when they won the first of the second three-peat.
Yeah.
So he was pretty good.
It's eventually.
but you're right. So
people are going to get over the hump, or your team's going to
Yes.
get older, or like their situation,
Yes.
they had to break it up.
Kelsey's no longer going to be around.
Yes.
You're going to have to find the next iteration of that thing, and it's like, oh, what's he going to look like without Hill and Kelsey? Okay, well, we know what he looks like without Hill or Kelsey without Hill. Okay, what's it going to look like without Hill and Kelsey?
And Reed.
And Reed, we don't know that. And maybe Reed coaches until Mahomes is. Maybe Reed is just like, sorry, Nagy, I ain't walking away from this, man. I'm winning. We got Super Bowls and everything.
I hope that's not the in waiting.
Yeah, right. I think it is, but we'll see.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah,
but I don't like
but
it.
I can't be disappointed if there's only one in the next 10 years, because winning a Super Bowl is so freaking hard, and we can look back, and even with Tom Brady, we can look back at all of the things that sort of fell in favor for his most recent 3.
Oh, you have to have things go your way.
Yeah.
There has to be so many things that break your way. That's what makes it even more difficult, because it is a one-game sample size in the playoffs. You don't have Major League Baseball or NBA. You don't have a 7-game series where a lot of times water finds its level or the better team will win.
Things had to break our way.
Yeah, things have to break
Plenty
the
of
Chiefs'
times.
Plenty
way
of things.
all the time. So, no, I guess again it just comes down to. Maybe disappointment is too strong of a word, but
But
yeah,
that's the question. Is disappointed. It's a yes or no. Disappointed. You can't say.
And I
that-
would say yes. I think,
Yeah.
and again, part of it is maybe just because
I think you would be in the majority. By the
I
way.
wouldn't say the deal or no deal if I'm doing the Howie Mandel.
One
but
Super Bowl, or
I would for sure say no.
if it's 2 Super Bowls, I would take the deal.
I'd
'Cause
take
again,
the deal.
I'll
I'd
take-
take the deal for 2.
With 2, right? But that's why I wouldn't take the deal for 1, because I'll take my chances that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes could win 2 or 3 at the risk of not even winning 1.
Yeah.
I don't want to settle for 1 when I know 3 or 4 is certainly a possibility, because they're going to continue to put themselves in that position over and over. Plenty of time. Now, there's going to be a time where Kelsey and Jones are gone.
Well, I guess
And Mahomes is going to be quarterbacking, and Kelsey won't be there, and Chris Jones won't be anchoring the defense on the other side.
were the Patriots fans disappointed when they didn't win a Super Bowl for 10 straight years? And I guess they won 1.
I think they were. Yeah, they were
and it-
disappointed.
They weren't, but the media was, asking about if Tom Brady should be the backup to
every
Garoppolo.
Every year.
Every year, yeah.
The
that was-
dynasty's over.
Not every year, but yes. My bad. You're right. On like the national level, for
Yeah.
sure. But then towards the end, like 14, when it was getting along, I mean, that was like 10 years they started asking about Tom.
Slightly different.
Locally.
Slightly different. Were Packers fans disappointed with only the 1 win in a 10-year time frame with Aaron Rodgers?
Yes.
You know what? They were, but more with the team. They thought that the team didn't support Aaron Rodgers, even though they were great
Yeah,
at
you're
drafting
right.
and had good players.
But
Devontae Adams.
But here's the thing, and this is where I do think connecting the 2 eras of what we've witnessed now or previously to this point, and then the question moving forward, it is hard for me not to separate those, because is it disappointing in Green Bay to only get 1 with Aaron Rodgers? Yeah. If you said only 1 with Aaron Rodgers over 10 years after he won 3,
Only one with Brett Favre.
yeah.
You could argue that's also a
Right.
disappointment.
So if you got
the Packers in general,
Right, but if you got only 1 with Aaron Rodgers over a 10-year stretch after he won 3, there's no way I think Packers fans walk away from that and go, well, yeah, that 10-year stretch was sort of disappointing after winning 3.
Yeah.
It'd be hard, because if the Chiefs win 1 Super Bowl over the next 10 years, I would guess it's not the only one they get to,
well, I guess
which would be disappointing losing it, but they're not the Bills.
the Patriots one is, I think, the most spot on, where they won 3 early with Brady. They had the 10-year stretch, and then they won it in year 11. I think that would be basically the exact comp.
It's all to this point been a
Yeah.
carbon copy of Tom's career.
But-
minus the fact that he made it to a 3rd Super Bowl after a chance to read.
Yes.
And that he made it to a Super. I mean, he's made it to more Super Bowls before Brady made his 4th Super Bowl.
I guess, and then the other reason why I think it'd be slightly disappointing is because we know who he's chasing. We know that at the end of the day, he's chasing Tom Brady and maybe Joe Montana.
Well,
and that's why I'd be slightly disappointed is because you did so much so early, and one over the next 10 years. I mean, that's not even just a fan of the Chiefs. That's almost a fan of history and a fan of what Patrick could end up becoming in the pantheon of the potential greatest of all time. Like, that's what we're talking. We're not talking about, a top 5 player or he's in the art. No,
he's ahead of Tom's pace because Tom Brady missed the playoffs after his first Super Bowl and then only went to the divisional round after his third.
Yeah, well, and it took 14 years of playing, not
right.
Well, I guess 13 because he got injured in week 1. So we'll take that season away. And his first year, he didn't play, just like Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
They have that in common. They both played their second year. Different circumstances as to why they played, but they both played their second year. And one won the Super Bowl. One went to the AFC Championship game in their first year of starting. But it was year 14, take away the 2008 season. So 13 seasons worth of football before he got to his 6th Super Bowl. It's 7 years of starting for Patrick Mahomes to already get to 5. So it would have to be another 7 years of not even getting to 1 for Brady to have more appearances in his first 13 years of starting than Patrick Mahomes.
Not only is he ahead of him accolade-wise, he's just ahead of him as far as play-wise and aesthetically. Like, you just look at the two as far as where they were in this part of their career. It's night and day. It's the old school versus the prototype.
Yeah, but 2004 to 2014, so I guess 2005 to 2013, there were no Super Bowl championships. They were 0-2 in the Super Bowl, losing to Eli a couple of times.
The issue we're going to run into eventually, and this is so far down the road.
They even had their chance at history. Like, Brady had his shot at the undefeated season. Mahomes had a shot at a first-ever three-peat.
Yeah.
I just think that we're going to run into an issue eventually, which is it's champagne problems, but we're going to start talking about LeBron versus Jordan, and it's going to be that, well, who did what in what situation? Oh, he was 6-0.
Oh, I'm ready for it.
6-0.
Because we're already getting knocked for making it.
Yes, that's my
whole
point.
Getting knocked for making
He's getting
it.
knocked for making it. Yes. While if Jordan lost in the first round, it's at least he didn't lose in the finals.
This year for Patrick Mahomes.
Robert Ory's the GOAT, by the way.
This year for Patrick Mahomes is 100% the LeBron Jordan argument, because LeBron is diminished because he lost in the NBA Finals while ignoring the performance to get there. Mahomes is diminished by his performance against the Eagles while ignoring one of the greatest performances that he has ever put on in the playoffs in the AFC Championship game against the Bills to win that game. Had he just been average Mahomes, they don't make the Super Bowl, and somehow it's viewed as better, where he was otherworldly Mahomes, and that's what it took to beat the Bills on that night to get to the Super Bowl, and then didn't play well with a bad offensive line, and therefore it's worse for him. It's the LeBron argument. And by the way, I'm perfectly fine, because I will find it interesting the hypocrisy that Chiefs fans that have argued Jordan over LeBron for so long that will then argue the same things in favor of Patrick Mahomes that they have been arguing against their entire, LeBron v. Jordan conversation. Luckily for me, I've been on the right side of history that LeBron is better and is the GOAT. Therefore, I have no problem arguing Patrick Mahomes better than Brady if he doesn't get to 6. I feel pretty good about the spot I'm in. Sorry, Sterling. It's going to be difficult for you to try to thread that needle.
But in this instance, Patrick is also Jordan because he's the more aesthetically pleasing player. Watching LeBron play is just not aesthetically pleasing.
That's not the point.
That's the point.
Brady has how many rings?
That's why I like Kobe over LeBron. Kobe's more aesthetically pleasing.
How many rings does Brady have?
Robert Ory, Bill Russell.
So he got 7 of them.
Bill Russell.
So he got 7 of them?
Is Bill Russell the GOAT then?
He's got 7 of them, right?
Is Bill Russell the GOAT then, guys?
He's got 7 of them? Oh, now you're arguing LeBron over
John
Jordan.
Havlicek?
Thank you, Sterling. LeBron over Jordan. I agree. We'll hang out with Joel Penfield coming up at noon, talking some Royals baseball. We'll get his thoughts on what happened over the weekend. Quattrero frustrated, continual frustration, assessment of them losing to the Dodgers, and the offensive power outage. Although they scored 14 runs in 3 games for the Royals, which is 13 more than they scored in the 3 games against the Rays. So 3 games against the Dodgers, 14 runs. 3 games against the Rays, 1 run. So, I mean, that is an offensive outburst, is what that is. Problem is you go 1-2. Can you move some things around and go 2-1 in that? Yeah. Could you take a couple runs from Saturday and move them to Friday? That'd be cool if you could. If you could do that, that'd be great. But you're not allowed. I looked it up in the rules on Sunday night or Saturday night, and you're not allowed to do that. It'd be cool if you could, but it's just against the rules. So it is like an offensive explosion against the Dodgers over the weekend. Let's see what they do against the Mariners. But it's hard for, I think, fans to be invested and back invested the way they were early in the year when they're not winning and it's not entertaining. The Chiefs won 14 games this year when they wanted to, or 15 games when they wanted to in the regular season. Yeah, but it was kind of boring, but they were winning. Oh, these are close games. Why are they making it so close? The offense is like they're playing in sand. It's not as entertaining as the 2018-19, can't even say 20 because the 2020 season was they weren't winning games by enough.
Yeah.
The 2022 offense, it's the best in the league. What's going on? This isn't as entertaining, but they're winning. So the entertainment level came in the final score. The entertainment level came in they just blocked the freaking field goal against the Broncos. They doinked one in against the Chargers. The Raiders fumbled the snap. Like, this is unfreaking real in the entertainment factor there. And arguing with dummies across the league, the Royals, the entertainment factor is totally zapped right now because we had a 2-week entertainment factor of watching Jack. And now he's not hitting the ball nearly as hard as he was before.
Can't be bad and boring. You can be good and boring. You can be bad and fun. You cannot be bad and boring.
And that's unfortunately where they're at right now. It's not bad. It's not boring. Our conversation with Joel Penfield. They're fun and great. Next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels. We head up until 2 o'clock. Coming up in the 1 o'clock hour, we got some Learn Funniest and Best. Got some news as well from the All-Star Game. The Royals with a couple of representatives in the Futures Game. Very cool. From the same draft, by the way. Frank Mazzucato has been chosen for the All-Star Futures Game. And Carter Jensen has been chosen for the All-Star Futures Game July 12th in Atlanta. So that is really cool that those guys are heading to the All-Star Game and representing the Royals. Mazzucato and Carter Jensen, so that his first-round pick and third-round pick for the Royals in that particular draft. Joel Penfield, One Royal Way podcast, joining us here in the zone to talk about the Kansas City Royals. They get ready to head to Seattle. Joel, what's up, man? How are you?
Glad to be here, man.
Well, I appreciate you joining us and coming in studio, and I definitely appreciate you bringing your son Ezra with you. That is so cool.
Yeah, I was telling him that I was going to come up and do this. He's like, I want to go too.
Yes.
Sure, man. Why not? Like,
come on, dude.
I mean, how many times do you get to tell your buddies, like, I got to go to talking to a radio studio with
Absolutely.
my dad? Like,
Hey, Ezra, can we ask Ezra here for a second? Ezra,
Yeah, absolutely.
How old are you, Ezra?
4.
How old?
4.
You're 4 years old? Yeah. Do you? I asked you earlier, but I'll ask you, do you like being a big brother? Are you helping out a lot? Okay. What do you do to help?
I don't know that.
You don't know that? Do you? Yeah. Do you keep her entertained?
yeah, you got to talk.
You got to talk. Do you keep her entertained?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. What's your favorite food?
Noodles.
I love it. That's great. Butter noodles?
Yes.
Butter noodles, yes.
Hey, can you tell everybody who your favorite player is?
Bobby.
Bobby! Heck yeah. Who's your favorite Chiefs player?
Travis Kelsey.
Yeah. Travis Kelsey. My son, when he was Ezra's age, would say Pat Holmes. That's how he Pat Holmes. I love Pat Holmes. I'm like, oh yeah. I mean, he's probably pretty good too. I like Patrick Mahomes, but whatever. Just call him Pat Holmes.
So close.
Yes, it was so cool. Ezra, thank you for hanging out with us, man. That's awesome. So let's talk Royals, Joel.
Do we have to?
I mean, yeah, I think we don't have to technically. We could talk about whatever we want, but I think we're going to talk Royals
Yeah.
here. We could talk about Oklahoma City. You got the Thunder shirt on as well, so you got that going for you. Is he a Thunder fan?
Sort of.
Sort of. Okay. You'll get as he watches more NBA. All right. So let's talk about this weekend series. There have been a number of times where we're like, man, missed opportunity. It just felt like it was right there for them to get a series win or a game win. And I'd have to say that I think Friday night was one of with the circumstances and everything surrounding it and hoping that the Royals can get things going. Friday night ended up being one of the more disappointing results, and especially in that at bat for Jack, because of everything leading into it and Jack coming up, and he's been in sort of a rut, and the opportunity that was right there just to put one over the second baseman's head and win the game. It was one of the more disappointing moments of the season, and that's unfortunate because it had to do with somebody that we're very excited about.
Yeah, that was a gut punch loss, and I saw him come up, and I was like, okay, he's going to swing at the first pitch. Like, you just knew he was going to. It was just a matter of, can he swing and miss or foul it off?
Yeah, right.
Hey, bud. I know you're having fun.
I like the music in the
he has
background.
a little background noise.
That's great. I love it.
But obviously, just a terrible situation. Something that happens to young players. He got tight. He pressed in that spot. We watched it happen to Bobby when he was in those first couple of years as well. It's unfortunate when it's a game that you're right there against one of the best teams in baseball, and you can't come through.
Yeah.
I'm not. It's not like it's a concern about Jack. Just an unfortunate situation. I feel like if a more mature hitter was up in that spot, they're not hacking at that first pitch and they're not going to roll it over. But it is what it is. And at this point, I've stopped trying to guess when the offense is going to turn it on and when they're going to do it with any sort of consistency. Because they scored 9 runs on Saturday. They put up some crooked numbers. Like, all right, there's no shot they're going to do this again on Sunday. And unfortunately, that was just because that's the way it's been. We haven't seen any sort of sustained success. And it is what it is at this point.
I wonder if, and we'll never know, but I do wonder, like, if Garcia's hit up the middle, doesn't hit the mound, or hits the mound and skips somewhere else, or
Correct.
Vinny comes through with a single, or heck, I don't know, even a sacrifice fly at that point just to move another run in. Like, what's the feeling then for the offense moving forward? Like, does there feel like a little bit of, man, we scored 9 runs last night. We have started off scoring 2 or 3 runs here in the first inning. Things are going well. Do they put more runs on the board the rest of the way? I don't know.
But
if
hitting's
that's the
an
case.
infectious thing.
Yeah.
Like, you go single, double to start the game, and then 3 straight outs after that. That's all your offense for the rest of the day. So, who knows? I mean, that's kind of the butterfly effect of the way this game works.
How are you viewing Jack Caglione to this point? Because now there's been a conversation, or at least a topic that people are wondering, hey, he's struggling. He's batting 165. He's OPSing 482 in the 23 games he's been up. Do you have to send him back down? Is it a trip back to AAA? How are you viewing and what's your assessment so far of Jack and what happens moving forward?
So I'll start with the point of, does he need to go back down? Absolutely not. The things that he needs to work on aren't going to help him in AAA. The gap between AAA and the majors is vast, and that's why I've seen a lot of the conversation of, well, these guys were hitting in AAA, why can't they hit here? The gap is massive between the two, and so calling him up was really just, there's nothing else for you to learn here. And the habits that he has, which is hacking a lot, swinging and chasing, he's got to figure that out here, because he's going to do those same things in AAA just with more success, because the pitching isn't as good. So he would create more bad habits and almost become a victim of his own success, where he may go down there and hit 25 homers the rest of the year, get some confidence, but then he's going to come right back and we're going to be right back where we are now. Whereas I'd rather him kick these habits now, learn and kind of take your lumps now, and it'll help him moving forward more than sending him back down to AAA. You want to mess with the psyche of a dude that has had success for his entire life, basically playing baseball. It's probably the most failure he's ever experienced. Yeah, we're just going to send you back down to AAA now because we're out of contention and it's not good enough. It's not going to help anybody. You're better off just letting him figure it out here. Maybe give him a few more off days here and there and just mental reset. When we saw that happen, he had that off day and then comes back, hits the 2 homers after he had been in a rut before that.
Yeah.
So I think that's how they have to handle it the rest of the year, and just he has to use this as a learning experience and go from there.
Well, I know that it was important for the Royals. They had said it, and it was important that they saw him struggle in the minors for a certain amount of time. And it's
I think he had like a 1 for 24.
It was like 2 for 28, something like that. He had an extended stretch, and then he came out of it was batting like 480.
Exactly.
Over the next month.
He has shown he can make adjustments. This isn't like he is so set in his ways, but he has to figure it out sooner rather than later. But at this point, with the way the season's going, like, just let him figure it out. Keep him in the lineup 5-6 days a week. Give him an off day here and there against a lefty, and just let him learn. And that's where we're at this point. And it's so weird talking about it. You're 6 games under 500. You're still only 4 out of a wild card spot. But at this point, that looks like it's a pretty untenable situation.
Joe Penfield is our guest, hanging out with him and Ezra Penfield here in the zone on a Monday. I gave these numbers out earlier in the show, Joel. And I want to see what you think of them, if there's reasons behind it. We were tracking early on in Jack's first few games in the big leagues of how often he was hitting 110 miles an hour or harder, and how many on the team had the most. And it was really quickly that it was Bobby, Salvi, and then Jack quickly passed Vinny. So Jack Caglione, his first 8 games, he had 33 at bats. And in those, he had 8 hits, or at least balls that he hit. Decent number of them were outs, unfortunately, of 110 miles an hour or more. So 8 of them in 33 at-bats in his first 8 games. Since then, he has played 15 games, 52 at-bats, and he's done that twice.
Yeah.
One of them was one of the home runs.
The other homer was like 104 or something like that. He still hit it hard.
Yes, it was a 110-mile-an-hour single that he had in a different game. But... so he had 8 of 110 plus in his first 8 games. In his last 15 games, he has 11 of even 100 miles an hour or more. So only 3 more balls off the bat of 100 miles an hour as opposed to the 110 plus, which was just absurd. This guy's hitting at 110. Right. So what do you make of that, of the different reasons that may go into that from what we're seeing? When Jack came up, his expected slugging was in the 500s because he was pounding the ball. And now even when he's connecting, he's not hitting it as hard consistently as he was early on.
Part of the issue to me is he's not punishing fastballs. Like when he gets fastballs in the zone, he's either a tick late or he's fouling it straight back, and if he does make contact, he's tapping it back to the pitcher. And that is a team-wide issue with hitting fastballs, and that's been widely talked about. But I think that's the thing he has to do. He's shown he can hit, he'll hit breaking balls. He'll stay back and do it. I've noticed and some people have noticed it on Twitter as well, that he's sinking into his legs more, like he's way deeper in his stance now. And I wonder if that is giving Team Skew he's trying to stay in his legs a little more. Let's see if he can get a fastball, and he's just late consistently. Once he's able to get some more adjustments here, and again, like I'd mentioned in the previous thing I said, he's shown he can make adjustments, and he is willing to make some changes and tweaks and tinker and try and figure stuff out. He did it at the minor leagues. He did it here early, and now it's just the constant cycle of it. And as he continues to get more at-bats, I think we'll see things start to trend. Hopefully, maybe the All-Star break and getting an extended time off will help him a little bit. Just get away from the game for a couple of days, go chill with your fiance, go have a couple of days, and then come back fresh head, get right back at it. Maybe I think that's what this whole team needs, frankly. But I think a guy like Jack, especially, that's in a extended rut that he's probably never had in his life.
We looked at Bobby Witt Jr.'s first 23 games that he played in the big leagues in 2022.
He was not good either.
He had an OPS in his first 23 games of 631.
Yeah, I think a lot of that was a couple of triples. He was kind of buoyed by some triples.
Yep,
early.
he had a triple, a home run, and 5 doubles there in his first 23 games. So he was slugging 356. Cags is slugging 271. Bobby got on base at 275. Not great, but Cags is getting on base at 211. Bobby was batting 240. Cags is batting 165. Neither of them are great. Neither of them are certainly Bobby is not what we know that he is now. But what I thought was interesting, too, is in those first 23 games, so both of those guys, the reputation of free swingers in the minor leagues, Jack at Florida and in the minors, Bobby throughout, his minor league career. In the first 23 games, Jack Caglione 4 walks, Bobby Witt 3 walks. Both of them had exactly 20 strikeouts in their first 23 games.
I'm not concerned about Jack's strikeout number right now. I thought it'd be a lot higher, to be honest with you.
I did too.
Around 23%.
Yeah.
I just like to see him work some counts a little bit more. I thought maybe he was really turning a corner in that game on Saturday in San Diego against Dylan Cease, where he walked twice, he gets hit by a pitch. He looked comfy, and then ever since then, he's just swinging like crazy, and he's not making any hard contact. So I can't quite figure it out either.
I know this isn't a Jack thing, but it happened with Bobby, and it's so annoying. And I can't remember which night it was. It might have been Friday or Saturday that we've been asking them, to have good, patient at-bats, have at-bats, take a walk, spit on pitches that are close and not, swing at pitchers' pitches. And we ask for that to happen. And then Bobby Witt gets up there, the guy that finished second in the American League MVP, and he's rung up on strike 3. That's a ball.
Yep.
That is just a fantastic take. And it's like, I'm taking that. I'm not swinging at it. That's a ball because we're having strong at-bats here. And not only is it a ball, but he also doesn't get benefit of the doubt by being, Bobby Witt Jr., one of the stars of baseball. And it's the exact opposite. They rings him up when it's a ball, and it's like, that's the frustrating part. Is like, man, you want them to have good at-bats. But how can you be up there and let a pitch go that close when it's a coin flip of whether or not the umpire is going to call it a strike or not, and now you're going to be sitting down, as opposed to, well, if I swing at this and I hit it, I at least give myself a chance of getting on base. If I take it and this guy feels like he's just in the mood to ring me up, well, then now I'm walking back to the dugout. I can disagree all I want. It's still an out, and we don't have anybody on base.
Yeah, I go back and forth on those situations. All the time growing up, it was, hey, that's too close to take. Don't leave it in the umpire's hands.
Right.
Well, yeah, that's cool in Little League. They're calling it chalk line to chalk line. I get it. But in the major leagues, you take that pitch and you keep, that's where process and results don't match.
100%.
But you keep that process. You lay off that pitch. Because, and especially with Bobby Witt Jr., he still has some of those free swinging tendencies. Like when he lays off the pitch, I'm like, oh, that's a good take. Strike 3. Yeah. Okay. He did the right thing. And next year when he can head tap, he's going to first base and we're not worrying about it. Or he lives to fight another day, in a 2-2 count, 3-2 count, whatever the case. So I don't worry about those things. And as frustrating as it is, and it may take the Royals out of the inning, I'm okay with not swinging at those pitches because you're not supposed to. It is what it is.
Joel Penfield is our guest, One Royal Way podcast. Alex Zumwalt's a big conversation that's going on, a big topic of discussion that's out there, and it's gotten louder and louder, the chorus of, do you just have to send a message? Do you have to make a move for a move's sake? Is it sacrificial lamb? Is he the problem? Where do you stand and fall on the Alex Zumwalt move for move's sake, or just staying the course?
I have a lot of different thoughts on this.
Yes.
I think it ends up being a move for move's sake.
Mm-hmm.
Is he the problem? I don't think so. Is he the solution? I also don't think so. And also, he can't swing the bat for guys.
Yeah.
There is a certain element of that, and this is where I think baseball is difficult to blame coaches, because there is a level of independence away. You can have the game plan, all that. You still got to go out and swing the bat, right? There's not as much direct influence. Whereas on the Chiefs side, when a play is called, that is a direct result of what the coach is asking you to do. There's only so much that the coach is directly involved in with this. But I think there is a clear disconnect with whatever the game plan is that these guys are going up for. And Vinny can say, and I appreciate his candidness at all times, he said, we feel confident in our game plan. We go out there and just something's not right. And we're not executing either. So it seems like there is a team-wide thing. I don't know. I do think they need to bring in a new voice. They did it on the pitching side. Clearly, that's paid dividends with Brian Sweeney and Zach Bowe, as my son is mimicking all of my hand motions.
Dude, I am loving this, by the way. If you're watching this online, I just cannot enjoy this even more than what's going on right now.
But I think they need to get a new voice from someone outside the organization. Zumwalt was a holdover from the previous regime. He had built great relationships in the minor league side with Vinny and Michael and Bobby and all that. So I understand them wanting some sort of continuity there. But I think it's run its course to a certain point.
Yeah. I mean, even if it's sacrificial lamb, even if it's a message being sent, is it worth the move being made right now?
I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
But I also don't know that giving it into the hands of Joe Dillon or Keone Dureni the rest of the year, I don't know if that's going to make much of a difference either. So as much as fans may hate to say it, you may just ride out the year with it and then make a change in the offseason. Then it's a clean break, and you go from there. And I mentioned those two other names. You got 3 hitting coaches.
Yeah.
This feels like you have an offense coordinator, run game coordinator, passing game coordinator. They're all trying to do things within the offense, and becomes a too many cooks in the kitchen situation. Your head coach is calling plays. And that's not a Chiefs analogy, but that's just, you sometimes see that in football, where there's too many coaches trying to do too many things in the offense, and ultimately someone's going to end up getting the axe for it. I think it might end up being Zumi, even if I don't necessarily think he is truly the problem.
Well, I would wonder if it's just like a reassignment. You don't have to fire him and send him to a different organization. But when they moved on from Terry Bradshaw, their hitting coach, in May of 2022, if memory serves, and I remember talking about it, is they're bringing up Zumwalt to be this guy because he had a relationship with a number of these players.
Yep.
They're used to working with him. It's mid-season. You make it through the 2022 season, Bobby Witt's rookie year. You got MJ up and these different guys that are getting ready to
Vinny, Michael debut that year.
You got these guys moving up, and Zumwalt has a relationship, so you bring him up. But it felt like it was an interim, we're moving you up here, and then at the end of the year, we're going to go and find the hitting coach. Those guys performed well, that they decided to stay with him. But I feel like at the time, they sort of let us know their confidence in him as a hitting coach anyway, because they didn't fire Bradshaw so that they wouldn't lose Zumwalt.
Exactly.
They fired Bradshaw because they simply wanted to move on from him, and Zumwalt was the guy at the time in the position to get them to the end of the season.
And even with some of the offensive inconsistency that we saw throughout last season, they still were a top 10-ish offense, and you felt like with the addition of Jonathan India that things were going to roll over.
Yeah.
It's just gone downhill so fast that someone is going to end up getting the blame, and it's not going to be any of the players at this point. Because I think we still know the talent level that a lot of those guys have. I think they need a new message. They need a new direction.
Yeah.
This hyper-aggressive, contact-oriented thing is great. But, and yes, it worked in 2014, 2015, but think about how much the game has changed in the last 10 years. It's been an organizational philosophy since then, and the game is just different now. You have to take more shots. You have to be more aggressive. You have to work counts. You need to hit more home runs, and this team just doesn't do that. And if you're going to be a contacted, hyper-aggressive oriented team, you have to hit fastballs. And this is the 5th year in a row that you've been below average or near the bottom of the league in hitting fastballs.
And I think that, when we look at this team, too, as it moves forward and, whether it's Zumwalt or whoever else that they're going to have at the helm, maybe it is also like you can't develop that portion of a particular player. Maybe it's you either draft it or you trade for it. Yeah. And one of the things, like, do they trade Seth Lugo? Do they move on? Are they going to be sellers? And if they are, one, I think you're going to get many years of team control if they move on, if they're sellers, right? If they're buyers, I'd like them to buy somebody that also has team control for the next year or so. But if they're sellers, certainly you're going to get longer team control. I would like them to be seeking out guys that are great approaches at the plate. That's part of their game anyway. And if you get them in there and then you change them, well, then that's your own fault, and then we can say it's an organizational thing, and that person has to fire.
That's why I'm concerned about that being the thing, and I know you guys talked about this last week as well. I was listening to it driving a U-Haul back and forth to my old house and my new house. Talking about Jonathan India, his walk rate is the lowest of his career.
Right.
You know, even like Vinny, his walk rate has decreased every single year, and even though Bobby's has increased, it's still well below league average. So this is just, we're going to put the ball in play. We're going to be hyper aggressive. We're going to jump counts early and put the ball in play, put pressure on the defense. That's awesome. Your offense isn't good enough to do that right now.
Yeah.
Your best opportunities are when you put guys on and let guys be what makes them good. Like,
yeah, for sure.
And even like a guy like Bobby Witt Jr., I don't want him to walk a ton. I want him to put the ball in play because he's one of the fastest guys in the league. Like, that's fine. But if you're Jonathan India, you're a average-ish runner on a good day. You're not a huge power guy, and you don't hit the ball hard a lot. You're better off working counts and being a true table setter. That's why I was high on this offense coming into the year, because I thought if he could just copy and paste the approach he had in Cincinnati, it's going to make this offense so much better. And they've got him to be more aggressive, and certain times that's okay. But he's better off walking at a 12% rate and just getting on for Bobby and Michael and Vinny behind him. It makes the offense a lot better. See, exactly. He agrees.
Yes, Ezra agrees. I agree. Appreciate that. Yeah, like I look at India, and if it's like, okay, he's got a 700 OPS. Great. Is 350 of that on base? I mean, if it's 350, I'd rather it be more. But, like, I don't want him, like, his last 28 games, and it's like, all right, or 30-game stretch. It's like, hey, he's been playing much better. Okay, yeah, he's got a 280 batting average, but he's got a 311 on-base percentage. Still not good enough for what you...
That's not good enough.
If he's got a 280 batting average, then why doesn't he have a 360 on base percentage? That's what you brought him in. He was a guy that was like 240, 340, 250, 350 when he was with the Reds. Like, if he's 280, I'd like him to... He doesn't have to be 100 points higher at 380. That'd be great. But I can't have him be 30 points higher in on base than batting average, because his batting average back at the baseball card doesn't say that's going to be good enough for him on this team. And so that certainly has to be better for Jonathan India, moving forward, because they got somebody that they wanted to be on base, and he doesn't have to have the slug. I don't care about slugging percentage with Jonathan India. I don't want him to be swinging too hard at Kauffman Stadium because the ballpark's bigger. And I thought that was pretty revealing too. He was asked about the struggles offensively.
Yeah, when he said that was interesting.
And he went to, well, the ballpark's big. Well, we didn't say struggles at home. The question wasn't you're struggling at home. The question was struggles in general. And he went, well, we do play in a big ballpark. And this, so you immediately went to the ballpark factor instead of other things that may be contributing, which I thought was pretty revealing from maybe his mindset of that's the first thing he thought about is the ballpark as to why the offense overall is struggling.
So I immediately, when I heard that, went to Andrew Benintendi. What was that, in 21? And yeah, he hit 13 home runs or so, but I thought, okay, he's not going to hit that many home runs and just hit a bunch of doubles. He was okay that year. He was so much better in 22 when he just stopped trying to hit home runs. It was like, you know what, I'm just going to spray gaps. I'm going to get on base that way. So I wonder if that just, and I don't know if Jonathan India is going to be on the team in 2026. He technically could be. And if he is, if he just goes, you know what, if I hit 5 home runs this year, that's fine. I'm going to hit 280 just spraying balls in the gap and hitting 35 doubles and being okay with that. Because I did wonder about playing 81 games at Great American Ballpark versus 81 at Kauffman Stadium, but I thought the approach and the ability to just hit the ball in the gaps and maybe enough pull side power, he'd hit 12 and it'd be all right, and he hit 30-something doubles. And I don't know if that's the case now. He may hit 8 home runs with 25 doubles.
Yeah, so with the Royals in 21, he had 17 home runs, and he batted .276 and got on base at .324. In 2022, before they traded him, he had 3 home runs, with a 320 average and got on base at almost 390.
Yep.
With
How many
only
doubles did he hit?
The doubles, he had 23 doubles. He had 14 doubles with the Royals in the 93 games. He had 27 doubles with the Royals in the 134 games.
I thought he was gonna be a 35-40 double guy when he got here, and he would have been pacing close to 30 or 35 if he had stayed.
I mean, what he did in 22 was what they were thinking he would do just in 2021 after trying to bulk up and hit more home runs with the Red Sox instead of just being the gap-to-gap guy that got you, almost Rookie of the Year when you came up. And so, I just offensively, we know it's been a problem. And even if they turn things around offensively, the pitching hasn't been as great as it was that was carrying them to be this good.
And it's still good, but it's not good enough to buoy you if your offense is still going to be terrible.
Because it's got to be historically good to carry this offense.
Exactly.
The pitching does. And your defense has to be historically good to carry some of the offensive numbers. And Jonathan India, that's another part of it, is like...
He's the worst defender in baseball.
He's terrible at second base, and he's getting on base at, a 311 clip in his hot stretch. This year. Like you got to be an amazing second. It was like Michael Massey, right? And even Michael Massey might have negative numbers, but like Isbell in center field to make up for some of the numbers. But India's not getting on base, and he's a butcher at second base. Yeah. So it's double whammy. What's that? What's that? What's that? What's that? What's that? What's that?
That's a pretty funny bit. I like that.
Somebody right now is listening on the.
I was shocked he was back.
Yeah, somebody online somebody's listening on the app. Was like, the app is skipping again. No, it's not. That was just Sterling.
And it was great in the background. I just
6 minutes.
Three dudes. OPS and over 670 just still blows my mind. It still just feels impossible because for all the complaints of how big the K is and how hard it is to hit a home run, although we've witnessed literally every other team come in and act and have no issue, zero issues hitting it out. You should be getting a lot more singles.
Or doubles.
Yeah. Or triples. It grades out as a hitter's ballpark for the past 3 years. It's been a top 10, a lot of times top 7, top 5 hitting ballpark in all of baseball. Just not for this team.
It's the ballpark excuse to me is such a cop out.
Yeah.
And I've always despised it. At least in the last few years when it's been pretty clear you can hit in this ballpark. We watched what this team did at home last year. They all raked at Kauffman.
Yeah.
It's not a problem. It's just it's trying to find a reason why the offense isn't good enough.
All right, they head to Seattle over the next 3 days.
4.
Oh, yeah, no, it's a 4-game series.
I made the same mistake last night on the show.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely a 4-game series. What do you make of this with the Royals and Mariners? A little quick preview before we let you go.
It's going to be interesting. The Mariners are coming off a series against Texas where they went to extras in all 3 games, including the 12th inning twice. So you got a shot bullpen. Logan Gilbert didn't go very far in that game. I think they only had one starter in that series go 6 innings or get through 6 full, and that was Brian Wu. Kirby has not been the same guy. And actually, I think he might be a perfect guy for Kansas City to face because he doesn't walk guys. He's just around the strike zone all the time. So this could be one of those styles make fights things where the Royals are an aggressive hitting team and George Kirby is not going to throw balls outside the strike zone. So if they're able to jump on him tonight, I think that might give them a little bit of confidence going into the next couple of days. Emerson Hancock is not good, so you got a chance at least in these first 2 games of the series to win those, and then at a minimum you get out of there with the split. But even Logan Gilbert's not been the same guy this year. He's been hurt all year. So
you got 2 guys these first 2 games that have a 5+ ERA that you're going up against.
And Kirby's coming off an injury. He hasn't been the same since he came back. But we'll have to see how it goes. I mean, every time I want to be like, oh, they can split because the pitching is good enough, they score 1 run in a series like they did against Tampa. So
it's on the road though. So let's see what happens. They can go to a ballpark where they can hit home runs.
Maybe.
No, they can. It's only Kauffman you can't hit home runs.
That's right. My mistake. That hand up accountability. That is not the narrative. Yeah.
I mean, come on. Seattle is like it might as well be Cincinnati. How small that ballpark is.
Got to watch out for Big Dumper.
Oh man.
Yeah. Well.
Do you just give him the Bonds treatment and let anyone else in that lineup beat you?
I mean, James Wood got intentionally walked
4
times.
4.
I mean, give the 4 to Cal Raleigh. Who else in the lineup are you worried about? You know, a Rosarena if he runs into one, but you know.
Even then, he's been not good.
Yeah.
Julio has not been great. Like,
yeah,
the Royals and the Mariners actually mirror each other
Yes.
pretty darn well. Like, it's a super inconsistent offense with one guy that can really carry the weight, a really good pitching staff, a solid-ish bullpen.
but they do have one guy that's just batting. That's
Well,
hitting 32 home runs.
Here's the difference. KC's batting 245, Seattle 247. Royals have 688 hits, Seattle 708.
What are the home
ERA,
runs, though?
3.47 ERA for the Royals. Nice. Seattle, 3.93, pretty close. Whips, very close. One team has 58 home runs and one has 107. Shockingly, that has led to a 103 run differential, 277 for KC, 340 for the Mariners. So, yeah, shockingly,
Well,
a little
I mean,
different.
Of that 100-run differential, what 40 of those are on home runs? Just
If
scoring
they're all
yourself,
solo shots.
hitting yourself in.
Yeah.
They've got 58 and Raleigh has 32. So yeah, that's a little disappointing. Joel Penfield, One Royal Way podcast. Joel, you're the man. I appreciate it, brother.
Thanks so much, man.
Ezra, thank you for stopping by as well. Thank you for hanging out with us, man. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling more zone next.
They won a home game in June,
Right.
finally.
Beggars and choosers. Had they not won that game on Friday, they would have gone winless in the month of June.
At home.
Yeah, well, that's what we were talking about. Winless in the month of June at home. I don't know. They've probably gone winless in the month of June in general before in their history with 100-loss seasons. That would have been a K-Dog, a Curtis stat to look up if they had gone winless at home
Ever.
in a month. And that would have been the case had they not had that offensive breakout, those 9 runs that clearly had staying power and sustainability because they came back the very next day and boom, first inning. Hit, ground out, pop up, strike out, and then that was it. And then they went on their merry way, getting ready to go to
3 more
Valencia.
hits the rest of the game, and shockingly, the crowd wasn't in it.
Yeah, that is surprising. It is really surprising. You would think the crowd would be in it the entire time.
And one was a bunt, by the way. That was maybe the most exciting
true.
part, was a Fermin bunt.
That is true.
That probably could have been an error.
Yeah, that's right. It could have been for sure. 913-912-4810 is the text line. We asked the question in the previous hour if the Royals, or excuse me, the Chiefs, if they have one Super Bowl win the next 10 years for Patrick Mahomes, is that disappointing? Tex says, if the Chiefs don't win another championship in the next 10 years, would it be that big of a surprise in the context of the history of the league? No, with this crew, it would be with this crew, it would be, absolutely. I think in the context of the history of the league, no, it wouldn't be crazy if they don't win a Super Bowl over the next 10 years. But the point being, as the texter said, with this group of players and coaching staff, front office, would that be a surprise as well if they didn't win any? Yeah, I think it would be disappointing if they didn't win any over the next 10 years.
I think what it comes down to...
So the question was, like, if you win only one in the next 10 years, is that disappointing? And to me, it's not.
And I said yes. And I don't... And disappointing is the tough word in there, because I think slight disappointment. I'm not going to be angry. I'm not going to be, how did this happen? But also it's because, one, I trust in Brett Veach, and that's something you have to account for, is Chris Jones, McDuffie even. Like, think of the turnover on this team is going to be insane. You're going to have to think of how do they replenish, and I have a lot of faith in Brett Veach, who I think is the top 3, top 2 GM in all of football, that I believe.
It's like the reverse of LeBron. Not 7,
not 6,
not
not
5, not 4,
not 3, maybe 2.
Not 3, not 4.
He isn't.
Not
That's
5,
true.
Not 6.
Yeah, he's none of those.
None of those. LeBron's right. He is none of those in rankings of GMs.
And who knows if Hunt would have opened up the strings like they do in Philly, as far as allowing him to be a little more creative with some of the monetary constraints, if he would jump up to number 1. But I think right now he's 1B, 1A, whatever you want to. But point remains, I trust him, and as long as Patrick's here, I trust that they're going to put a good team around him, even with Chris Jones and Kelsey and all the current iteration of guys moving on. They're still going to be damn competitive.
Yeah, they're going to have to continue to kill it in the draft. This is a big draft this year to see what they got out of it. Did they get a good cornerback out of it in Noel Williams? Did they get their left tackle of the future in Josh Simmons? Did they get a defensive tackle that can rush the passer if Chris Jones were to start sliding backwards in his ability of putting pressure on the quarterback and rushing the passer? Do they have something to complement Karlaftis with Ashton Gelati and without Charles Omenihu? Do they have a running back that's a home run hitter? Do they have a wide receiver that you don't then have to go out and pay Hollywood Brown again, that you can move into next year with Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Jalen Royals? What do you have in place of Travis Kelce? You don't really have that right now.
No, but I think you have at least
And how can you, though, by the way?
Yeah, that's more or less my point, was that you don't because you can't. But you do have, I think, at least a game plan.
Yeah.
With Noah Gray. You drafted Jared Wiley 2 years ago, who then got injured. I know it's a UDFA, but a lot of hype around Brennan Stool. Robert Tunyon's had so much hype. Hilarious, I know.
Well, I mean, it's like
the aggregate,
right? But I think even though it's a UDFA in Briningstool, what if we flipped Brashard Smith and Briningstool? What if Briningstool was drafted in the 7th round and Brashard Smith was a UDFA? would we be talking about it different with Briningstool? Because ultimately, 7th-round picks are just UDFAs that you don't want to have to go and compete with another team to go and sign.
I don't think I do with Briningstool at all. I think I would have the exact same if it was 7th, because I think he's making the roster, by the way.
Right,
but I do think it would actually change my viewpoint on Smith.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have to go, I know Briningstool is a UDFA, but hey, Briningstool they brought in. You would say that more about Brashard Smith. It would be Elijah Mitchell would be the one, the home run hitter. It's like, well, Brashard Smith, they didn't think, he wasn't drafted. There was a lot of running backs. We would be actually disappointed that they didn't actually draft a running back.
Correct.
Even if Brashard Smith and Briningstool are sort of like 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other, that they just chose Brashard Smith because maybe he wasn't going to be there as a UDFA and maybe he was going to go to somebody else, whereas Briningstool they thought had a better chance. And they could have Andy Reid call Briningstool.
Yeah.
And have the closer. Because when
he was drinking coffee.
Because coffee's for closers. That's right. And he got a set of steak knives. Actually, Andy. Well, this year he got a set of steak knives in second place. But back-to-back years he got a Cadillac Eldorado. So he's got 3 of those. He's got some steak knives. He's got a couple steak knives, and he's been fired a couple times. So third place. That is unfortunate. But you have Andy Reid call Briningstool because it was that important for it. I think if you had 2 7th-rounders, seeming how they approached the UDFAs, that it felt like Briningstool was their main guy.
Sure.
That if they had another 7th-rounder, maybe they spend that on him, and maybe we're not throwing the caveat, the qualifier.
Sure.
I know Briningstool is a UDFA, but hey, they'd have Noah Gray, Jared Wiley, and then Briningstool. So you'd have 3 guys moving forward without Kelsey that hopefully one of them can give you some of the production of Kelsey, some of the blocking that you should be getting that you aren't necessarily getting at the high level from Kelsey or really even Noah Gray, but what you were getting that you wanted from Blake Bell.
Sure.
In that aspect, maybe one of those guys. But ultimately, you're looking for the offensive production and receiving from one of those guys, and maybe the 3 of them combined to be that.
Well, and I think what it ends up being is his team's just going to have to shift its focus to Rashee Rice, which we've hashed out and talked about, and how we think that's going to be the new Kelsey, quote unquote, if you want to view it that way, as the offense is going to start funneling through Rice. So I still think Noah Gray can be effective in his current role. His numbers would go up post Kelsey, but not to obviously his Kelsey numbers. But Gray has great hands. I think you trust that he knows where to be. I think he's shown that, which is evidenced by the contract extension he received. Yeah, again, you're not going to replace Kelsey, but we also said you weren't going to replace Tony Gonzalez. And that did happen.
It took a little bit, but they eventually found it.
Yeah, the Chiefs have been very good in that regard. But yeah, you don't force it. If it happens, it happens. I think people are too nervous about trying to replace Kelsey when I don't think you have to. I think you go to Rice as long as you have a check down, or you at least have the funnel for Patrick, which we all agree is Rice. It doesn't matter if he plays tight end or wide receiver. To me, it doesn't make a difference. I think people are overblowing those concerns.
Yeah, here's the issue would be, and why it's affecting the Bengals more than it's affecting the Chiefs, is because when the Chiefs can pay a high-level receiver and Patrick Mahomes, when they were paying Travis Kelce as well, you're talking about a cap number of 17, 18 million.
Sure.
Whereas in Cincinnati, you're paying high dollar for Burrow, high dollar for Chase, and more money for T. Higgins than you're paying for Travis Kelce. So if you have a Travis Kelce, you have a cheaper weapon than what you're going to have to pay Rashee Rice in a couple of years if he becomes the focal point of the offense and has 2 years of what 3 games looked like. Because obviously the first 3 games, it was Rashee Rice leading the league.
It was Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Right, leading the league in receptions and second in yards. Pacing for 130 receptions, 1,600 yards, and like 12 touchdowns is what those 3 games. That's it, 3 games. But if he produces like that over the next couple of years, you're paying high dollar for that. Whereas if you got a tight end that's producing, you're not paying as much money as, your second receiver. Sometimes a third receiver in today's market. So that's where the Chiefs could be Mahomes, Kelce, and another guy, pay them, and make it easier on the cap than Burrow, Chase, and T, because you're paying top dollar for the wide receivers.
Yeah.
That's the difference on if you can find the next, quote-unquote, iteration of Travis Kelce. as opposed to having a high-level receiver. You're paying a lot more money for that weapon.
Yeah, I don't disagree, and I don't know if this is good for KC, bad for Rasheed, how it's going to break down, because that injury to Rasheed Rice zapped a lot of – it's all what-ifs now. He also has had the off-the-field stuff. I have no idea what his contract's going to look like. Even if he goes out and puts up 1,200 yards this year, what's that contract looking like? Are other teams in the NFL a little nervous about it because of the injury and off-the-field stuff? Is he going to be more loyal to Kansas City because they've stood by him during all this? Do players think about that, or do they just let the agents handle it? And so maybe even Rasheed Rice would be, but the agents are going, Rasheed, sorry, we're getting more money by this team. We don't know. We'll find out. I just – because you look at what Amon-Ra St. Brown did, and I think that's a really interesting one. The difference is we keep comparing the two because they're similar style of players. Amon-Ra St. Brown in his 4 years has averaged 1,250 yards and 9 touchdowns a year and 111 receptions a season.
And what did he get contract-wise?
It was, what, like 4 for it was. Let me look. It was like $40 million a year, I thought.
Even if we look at just the cap number, just for comparison's sake, the next 2 years, or excuse me, 24 and 25 for Travis Kelce's cap number comes up to like $38 million combined.
4-year, $120 million for Amon-Ra, which is actually, you look at it now, it looks not bad.
So it's like it's let's just round up to make it an even 40 for Travis Kelce. 2024's cap hit and 2025's cap hit, looking at $40 million. T. Higgins over the next 2 years, cap hit's going to be over $50 million. Next 2 years for T. Higgins. $24 million and then 26.8 next year. For T. Higgins, as opposed to what Travis Kelce is making. And that's the difference in the money you can save if you have a high-level tight end as opposed to a good second receiver in T. Higgins. I wouldn't have paid T. Higgins that money.
No.
But it seemed like Jamar Chase was saying it's a package deal. And it felt like you were going to piss off Joe Burrow if you didn't have Chase and T. Okay, well, your hands were kind of tied there. And if your hands were tied with T, would you rather give that money to Trey Hendrickson or give that money to T. Higgins? Well, it depends. Some Bengals fans will say that, he's not worth the $30-something million, Trey Hendrickson. That he's a guy that, will accumulate his numbers versus bad offensive lines. And then in bigger games where you need him to make an impact, he's sort of a no-show. And then he'll have a game where he has 3.5 sacks against a bad offensive line. And at the end of the season, you're like, well, there's 17.5 sacks. And it's like, okay, but what about a week-by-week basis, whereas Chris Jones doesn't have as many sacks, but is more disruptive game by game, week by week, even if there's 8.5 fewer sacks this last year than what Trey Hendrickson got.
Sure.
I mean, that could be probably the argument the Bengals are making as to why, look, man, this is what we think you're worth. You're looking at the raw number and saying these other guys are getting this, and I led the league in sacks the last couple of years, and they're saying, yeah, you had 4 against Kingsley. You ended the guy's career at left tackle. So you had 3 against this guy. You had a couple against this guy over here. But what did you do against Ronnie Stanley? What did you do against this guy? I don't know, specifically, but I can understand if that's the argument, if that's the contention for a guy like Trey Hendrickson, where I think offensively for the Bengals, you can see when T. Higgins is off the field and when Jamar Chase is off the field and compare those two of what does T do for Jamar? What does Jamar do for T. Higgins? And maybe from that standpoint, you go, we're giving them both that money. And we'll have to figure out defensively with drafting and not paying Trey Hendrickson, and maybe Shamar Stewart will give us leverage over Trey Hendrickson because we drafted this guy who's going to come in and sack the quarterback, except you don't have leverage over Trey Hendrickson because you can't get that guy signed either.
And I do wonder, I don't know, you mentioned it briefly, but it's true. Jamar and T. Higgins are really close.
Mm-hmm.
They're good friends. And so I wonder, you're right. Jamar wanted T. Higgins to be there. He wasn't going to save any money for him. That was made pretty abundantly clear of, I'm not saving you money to give to him, but you better re-sign both of us. They're very close.
Yeah, after the 2026 season, his cap number is 30. T. Higgins' cap number is 30, but they can save $23 million.
Yeah, he's not going to be there. Yeah.
So it's essentially, they've got him for 2 more years. But 2 more years at a total of like $51 million against the cap for T. Higgins for these next 2 years. Travis Kelce, what could be his last 2 years in the league, was 38, 39 and change. I mean, it's $12 million difference over 2 years. That's
Hollywood Brown.
2 years of Hollywood Brown, right? I mean, that's just Travis Kelce and Hollywood Brown or T. Higgins, Now, Well, I would say that Hollywood Brown and T. Higgins are sort of the same in terms of how often they're out there.
Because they're always injured, yeah.
That was the funny when we did the sad fans with the Bengals last year, that one of the Bengals sad fans was, boy, T. Higgins is going to be so amazing in the 5 games he plays this year. It's one of the sad fans of the Bengals, and that's been an issue for him, and it's been an issue for Hollywood Brown. But that's sort of the price of doing business for Hollywood. That's the price of doing business for T. Higgins. And that's why I was fine with the Chiefs not being in on T. Higgins and give him a $115 million contract. So I'm okay not doing that. We'll take a timeout, come back, continue rolling more zone next. leisure. We got the Royals coming up tonight at 8:40. Michael Wacha taking on George Kirby, heading to Seattle. Michael Wacha taking on Cal Raleigh, let's be honest. Wacha the big dumper. So we'll see what happens with that game coming up tonight if the Royals offense can get off the schneid and they can go on the road and get a win. We've got an NBA. There's an NFL trade that took place before the show started. We talked about it a little bit, and that is Jalen Ramsey is heading to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Minkah Fitzpatrick is heading back to the team that drafted him.
And Jonnu Smith going to the Steelers as well. That's a pretty...
Oh, I didn't see the Jonnu Smith part.
It came out a little after. It's Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith to the Steelers, Minkah Fitzpatrick, and then a pick swap heading back to...
Okay. What's the swap? Do we know?
It's a 7th rounder to the Steelers in 2027, and then the Dolphins are getting a 5th rounder in 2027 back from Pittsburgh.
Okay. Interesting. So Pittsburgh is getting themselves a tight end to go with Aaron Rodgers.
To go with Pat Fryermuth and a guy they drafted last year, the large dude from
Georgia.
From Georgia.
He's a massive
Washington. Darnell
No,
Washington.
he's from Georgia. Sorry.
Nice. That was good.
No, that was bad. It was bad.
And then they are looking, I guess, because they brought in Darius Slay, the Steelers did, and they already have Joey Porter Jr., and Beanie Bishop is their nickel corner. I'm a little perplexed on what they're going to do at corner, or not even at corner, at safety, because right now they have Elliott, yes, but they also, I guess, have Juan Thornhill is going to take that role.
There you go. They don't need anyone else because they've got him.
But now they have 4 starting corners.
Well,
and
if your cornerbacks are good enough, you don't need safeties.
Apparently, just start 4 corners.
Yep,
and then Jonnu Smith, you already had Pat Fryermuth, okay. I'm sure that's an Aaron Rodgers special. And then you're going down to Miami, and you're like, well, we got Minkah Fitzpatrick back, who complained last time he was here when we were bad, so we're going to be bad again.
Do you like it better now in Miami? How's the weather in Pittsburgh, Minkah?
Yeah,
there you go. You want to complain some more?
It was that guy, the Brewers.
That's right.
They sent him to the White Sox.
I want to be traded. Okay, or I'm not going to go to the bullpen.
That's right.
I'm not going to go to the bullpen. Okay, we're going to trade you to the White Sox. Well, I would have gone to the bullpen if you'd have told me that. No, come on. It's not like Devers that got traded to the Giants in a contender.
Still all the way across the country if he had to move. That sucks.
That's a good point. We'll talk Ben Roethlisberger, Mahomes, and Rodgers next. That's coming up in the next segment. No Mick Schaefer today.
Oh,
He's playing in a charity golf tournament for a good cause, though.
Yay!
So we do allow that from time to time. If it is a charity that we agree with and we have pre-approved, or a fundraising event that we are okay with or pre-approved, then he is allowed to take the day off.
What if it's a fun raising event?
Those are the best.
Like we raise it for fun.
Those are the best. You should just raise.
I'm raising my fun level.
Raise the money so you can then spend it to go have fun.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Let's have a fundraiser.
A fan of.
Let's do that. We'll have a fundraiser for this last hour. Call in and we're taking your donations for the next hour for our fundraiser. We're going to raise money so that Dylan and Sterling and we can go and have some fun.
Yeah, what's it for? It's because, what's the cause? Because we want to go have fun together.
Yeah, mind your business. That's why.
Yeah.
Why are you guys doing this? Mind your business.
Dylan, we could get the
money
call
and
in.
shut up.
And we'll spend it. If you give us $100, I'll turn that into 50 real quick.
What'd you put money on? Malik Beasley's over?
Whatever he's betting on, I'll
over
put
his,
it on.
over
Allegedly.
his Malik, allegedly over Malik Beasley's rebounds in that game.
Some of these videos coming out, it's not looking alleged.
Yeah, that one of where he went
I've
coast
never
to
seen
coast.
a guy. Yeah, you already said it. That
Yes.
was
That was
very
wild.
concerning. Yes.
Yeah, there were
Down 9.
down 9.
4.5 seconds left. Gets an inbound.
Has anyone gotten his line for
coast
that
to
game
coast?
Well, the line was 8.5.
The line,
game.
yeah,
What was his
8.5.
point total at that point?
I'm not sure about that. But the line was 8.5. They were down 9, and he sprinted in 5 seconds to go
I
and lay
mean,
it up to get him.
sprint.
Oh my god.
Yes, 5 seconds. I mean, it was just as fast as you can get down the court to lay it up right before the buzzer to make sure they lost by 7.
I present to the jury Exhibit A, B, C, and D right
Yes.
here. This is the one video we need, basically, if that's the case. I mean, yeah,
Yes.
that is crazy.
I would. Lawyer statements, sometimes they can be just completely benign. This one, the statement from Malik Beasley's lawyer that they put out, I find it to be of interest. He writes, or puts out the statement, "This is simply an investigation. At this point, Malik has not been charged with any crime and there has been no formal accusation of wrongdoing. Hopefully everyone will afford him that same presumption of innocence that everyone else does." Boy, that sounds like my client didn't do it.
Yeah.
That really sounds like this is baseless. These accusations are unfounded. We are looking forward to the truth coming out, and we are confident that my client will be absolved of all of these allegations, and he participated in no such thing that he is being alleged of. Well, hold on, everybody. He hasn't been charged yet.
It's the Drewski lawyer.
Yeah, this is just an investigation. There's no charge here. He's innocent until proven guilty. Okay. Now he may be proven guilty soon, but right now he is innocent. All right. That statement was. I'd like my lawyer to maybe come out a little bit more forceful.
Oh, I know what you could do.
What's that?
They are chasing Barbador, Xavier, and he will not kneel. That was forceful.
Yeah. The NBA is trying to close out on Malik Beasley's shot, but he will not pump fake, and he will not pass the ball. He will instead drive to the basket, and we look forward to dunking on the investigation that is happening by the FBI, by the federal government.
And we will not take a rest day.
The government was trying to surround my client. They were double and triple teaming him. But instead, he was able to split the zone and go to the hole and finish, and he will not stop until we prove it's an and one.
Good news, we got your payment, buddy. Bad news, they gave you life.
What was that from?
It's Drewski as
Yeah,
a bad
so,
lawyer.
That's
yes.
so good.
That's right.
Good
Sorry.
news, we got your payment.
Bad news, they gave you life. So that sounds like
Yes.
the lawyer he hired.
Yes,
basically.
that got your payment. Sorry about that. That's a rough one for you. I wish he would have used Xavier or whoever the lawyer was for that Xavier Babidar used, just so we can get more of those basketball puns.
Yeah, we need
You
more
know.
of those in our life.
Yes.
You used the zone, which was nice. You said
Thank
the name
you.
of the show, which was smart.
Well, yeah, it's like when you put the name of the movie in the movie. You know what I mean? That's what makes it a good movie. They said the thing. They said they said the name of the movie in the movie. There it is. Let's hear from Ben Roethlisberger. He's apparently a host of Footballing with Ben Roethlisberger. I found out, one of my learns is that Ben Roethlisberger has a podcast.
Nice.
That's what I learned. We'll get to learn Funniest Best. I learned other things as well, but that's one of the learns. So there's been this clip going around, or at least the quote of Ben Roethlisberger saying he would take Aaron Rodgers' prime over Patrick Mahomes. So let's listen to it, before we say, well, Ben Roethlisberger is this or that. Here's the entirety, and not just taking the small clip that has been, put out there. Here's about 40 seconds of this entire podcast, but the 40 seconds of him weighing in on a question that was asked about Rodgers' prime versus Mahomes' prime.
Did someone ask a question about would I take Aaron in his prime or Patrick Mahomes now?
Yeah.
Well, I would take Aaron in his prime over Patrick now. I think Aaron Rodgers at his prime was one of the top few to ever do it, and so is Patrick Mahomes at his prime. Patrick Mahomes is just like entering out of his prime. I think.
You think?
I mean, yes, I think Patrick Mahomes is a phenomenal. He's going to go down as a another arguable GOAT.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Aaron in his prime, then we're talking about Patrick right now. If we're talking prime and prime, then I'm gonna really have to think hard on that.
So, to his point, he's saying if I'm taking the best stretch of Aaron Rodgers' career ever, if I can just pinpoint a specific, I don't know how many year stretch you would say prime, versus Mahomes right now, he's saying, well, I would take Aaron Rodgers at that time because of the ability to play, not just simply Mahomes with the Chiefs and Andy Reid, or him as a quarterback, just you get your quarterback there.
I would say that would be
Rodgers.
2010 to 2015 would be Rodgers' prime.
Which is interesting because that goes till when he's 32 or 33 years old.
Yeah.
16.
Yeah,
2016.
I would say he's right.
Because he has two MVPs
because he went
there.
to the NFC Championship that year.
So 2010 to 2016, he has two MVPs in that time?
Correct, and a Super Bowl.
So that's a 7-year run, which would be a 7-year run for Mahomes as well. So that would be easier to make those comparisons. But that's sort of the thing, and that's where he said, the question is Aaron Rodgers' prime versus Mahomes right now. And then at the end saying, what, Rodgers' prime versus Mahomes' prime? Well, then I'd have to take another look at it. He did say he's just now entering out of his prime. I don't know how that sort of word and sentence structure there. But I don't think that's the case. Because if we're saying Aaron Rodgers' prime is 2010, 2016, that covers 33 years old for Aaron Rodgers. So Mahomes is not coming out of his prime right now. We're talking about NFL quarterbacks. These are not tennis players. Right? This is not gymnastics.
Like both Brady and Rodgers, you would say their primes were these years, but then they also were competitive in their later years. Like Rodgers, one of his last years in Green Bay, he was in the NFC Championship against Brady.
Yeah, 19, 20, and 21 of Rodgers were
MVP
really,
years.
He won two MVPs.
Two
really
MVPs
good.
back to back.
But those can't count because that's not his prime.
Right.
He wasn't in his prime in those two MVP seasons. So, I mean, if we're literally taking it from Aaron Rodgers' prime,
that was kind of my point. Yeah,
but his prime is not 38 years old.
You can't pick and choose like the best 5 years of Rodgers because that's not the stretch.
That's not a stretch.
If you count the
you
stretch.
would also say that, yes, that isn't his prime because I would say the team around him was carrying him more so than the original year that I said because he was the dude. Like he was the Mahomes of that time frame, 2010 to 2016, where the team around him was not all that or maybe not even the best in the league or his conference, but he was the best quarterback.
Well, until Mahomes in 2018 when we saw him, bust out and be Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers was the best just simply thrower of the football.
Correct.
I've ever seen. Just
he was
simply
the new
throwing
Peyton.
the football.
Like Peyton was always described as, boy, if he had Bill's team,
but he's
what
so
would he win?
smart and cerebral. He puts the ball there. But like Aaron Rodgers, arm angle, velocity, accuracy, like the way it comes off his hand. Like it was like Aaron Rodgers' best throw of the football that I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And then Mahomes comes in and he's doing these side arms, the different arm angles, manipulating that.
Grew up watching and was his favorite player.
Contorting his body to a degree that was better than what I had seen from Aaron Rodgers.
And that's why we're going to see the Mahomes kids, like the Dylan Raiolas and all that, who watched Patrick as a kid, and now they're going to take it to a whole new level.
Although Arch Manning says the two quarterbacks he studies are Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. So good luck in the playoffs, Arch.
Yeah.
Well, because you can't replicate Patrick.
Yeah.
Well, I've always said that teams need to stop looking for Patrick Mahomes and find the next Joe Burrow.
Yes, I don't even look for Josh Allen.
The next anything.
Yeah, don't look for the next Josh Allen.
If
That's
you look
the thing
for Josh Allen, you're going to be sorely disappointed.
You know who you're going to end up with?
Anthony Richardson.
Boom.
Trey Lance.
We were both going to the
we
same
were all
thing.
on the same.
Yeah, you're going to end up with those guys.
Yeah.
You try for Patrick.
You look for the next Joe Burrow,
Yeah.
you may end up with Brock Purdy.
Yes.
We're looking for somebody who's
For sure.
Yes.
commanding in the pocket, can get rid of the football
Bo Nix.
accurately, great leadership. Yeah. I mean, if you're
Like,
trying
let's
to
see what Bo Nix does. Like, he could be.
Yeah.
There was a thing a PFF put out, like, hey, he could be Drew Brees or I can't remember who else. It was Mac Jones. It's like, yeah, that's kind of accurate. Like, it does feel like he's a pocket accuracy passer versus, oh, the play broke down, do something like special.
Zach Wilson, oh my God, the second plays was that he's the
Yes.
Mormon Mahomes.
Oh, look
Zach
at his
Wilson.
pro day throw.
Yeah, the Mormon Mahomes is what he was called coming out of college and heading to the Jets because he's comparable to Mahomes. Well, stop. You know, Trey Lance, he's going to be like Mahomes. He can run around, he can do a lot of different things and use his legs, and he's got a great arm. He's going to be like Mahomes. Like everybody was trying to find the next Mahomes, next Mahomes, next Mahomes. You don't have it. Just like you shouldn't be trying to find the next Lamar. You shouldn't be trying to find the next Josh Allen. Joe Burrow is fantastic. And I'm not saying you're going to find somebody that immediately is better than Joe Burrow, but the prototype of that type of quarterback is what you should be trying to find if you're trying to find somebody, a Matt Stafford of somebody that can go and win a Super Bowl. And if you land on Mahomes or Josh Allen, bleep, yes, that's awesome. But I'm not going to take a quarterback out of college and say, I can see Mahomes in this guy. That's why I'm taking him, because he's going to play like Patrick Mahomes for this team, and he's going to be that guy. Okay. Well, is he going to play at a higher level when the game's on the line?
Is he going to play through a high ankle sprain in the playoffs?
Yes. Is he going to play through a turf toe that has to have surgery on it after the Super Bowl against the Buccaneers? Is he going to play on turf toe that he hurts against the Browns a couple of weeks before that, and he has to run 300, 400 yards scrambling on the turf toe and then has to have the turf toe fixed after it's over? Does he do that? But again, when it's the fourth quarter trailing in the big games, does he play his best football? Does his heart rate drop when he's in the pocket as opposed to watching the game? Does that happen with your quarterback? Because, again, trying to find the next Mahomes is a fool's errand. Maybe you do. But you should be trying to find the guy that is Brock Purdy, Joe Burrow.
Or just whoever's the best, because guess what? I bet Andy Reid and all the scouts were saying, hey, how can we find the next Tom Brady? And
Hell, they wanted
then
Paxton Lynch.
100%.
They tried to get Paxton Lynch. Thank God.
Brett Veach brings in Patrick Mahomes and says, how about this?
Yeah.
And they said, you know what, we'll do that. And they've changed the way football is played, basically, by drafting Patrick Mahomes.
One of the greatest unanswered prayers for Chiefs history was hoping Paxton Lynch would fall to them and John Elway and the Denver Broncos trading ahead of them to get Paxton Lynch.
Well, they saw the height. John Elway, that's all the requirement was are you 6'6" or taller? We will draft you at quarterback.
Osweiler and all the other
We'll do it.
6'7", 6'6" quarterbacks.
Like
but if
Jaden
he's there,
Daniels.
they don't take Patrick Mahomes if they draft Paxton Lynch.
Like, everyone wanted Caleb Williams because he was the next Mahomes, and guess who probably, and what it looks like as of now, the book isn't written yet, but as of now, it looks like Jaden Daniels was the better pick, and who is he like? He's really not like anyone. He's a skinnier quarterback that is a pocket passer.
Closer to Lamar, but not Lamar.
Right, but he's a better passer.
Yeah.
So
he's closer to that sort of
and they didn't
type of
draft him
player.
like they drafted Lamar for his running skills. Like, his running skills are an additive to the fact that he was one of the most prolific
also,
passers in college football history.
What we're seeing now is just you're not going out and drafting a guy and saying, this guy's Tom Brady, this guy's Peyton Manning, this guy's Matt Stafford, this guy. Ooh, Big Ben is different because he'll hold on to the football longer. He'll break tackles. You know, it's hard to sack him. That's what makes him different. Aaron Rodgers became different because now he was athletic and he was sort of manipulating the pocket, and he had this
It's like Dan Marino.
Yeah, flair for big throws and big plays. Brett Favre, this flair for big plays.
Yeah.
That's what they were. Now, like, it doesn't really matter the prototype. Okay, Jaden Daniels, who's he like? I don't know, kind of Lamar, kind of somebody else. I don't know. We'll find out. Caleb Williams, who's he like? Oh, he's kind of like Patrick Mahomes. He's making these plays, but kind of accurate.
the mental
Cam
is
Ward
nothing
and
similar.
Joe Burrow and Josh Allen.
I've never once saw Caleb Williams make a play and be like, you know what, who reminds me of Patrick.
Right.
I've never once thought that comparison's always been wild to me. That one's.
But look at the Final Four in the NFL this year. Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen.
Yeah.
There ain't a Tom Brady, Peyton Manning in the bunch.
No.
Like, every one of them does something different to a degree, but none of them are statue pocket passers, and I'm going to sit here and wait for my receiver to get open, throw the ball or duck in the fetal position to take the sack. Every one of them offers the dynamism that we hadn't seen on a regular basis before for the second and third play on the original play.
Pushback I'll give when the Rams won.
Mm-hmm.
That's
yeah. Right, I'm just talking about this year specifically.
This year.
Because you still have Burrow.
Argue that Stafford was like he was the original. Like when Aaron Rodgers gets interviewed, he does like to point out that Stafford was kind of the in between him and Mahomes of like wild sidearm throws.
No. But I'm talking legs. I meant the mobility. I was talking mobility. Sorry.
But here's my point to that. My point wasn't saying that that's what you need. My point is saying you aren't taking quarterbacks and trying to put them into a prototype cookie cutter like we had seen before.
Correct.
Now you have a Joe Burrow and a Matt Stafford and a Brock Purdy. But in the championship game in both leagues, you had a Jaden Daniels and a Jalen Hurts and a Patrick Mahomes and a Josh Allen. And 25 years ago, Mahomes would be told, do not throw that ball back across your body or I'm taking your ass out of the game.
That was why no one wanted to take him.
Yeah. Josh Allen, you're not going to run to the sideline and have a yard difference between the sideline and throw the ball, even though he's got a quarterback rating of like 90 when he's within 2 yards of the line of the sideline, like something stupid like that because he's just brilliant in that area. Like, no, we're not taking Jalen Hurts that's just going to run the football and not have like a crazy rocket arm.
Couldn't start over Tua.
Jaden Daniels is a freaking pole. He's going to get split in half in the NFL. He's running that much, he's going to be broken in half. He's going to be the kid on the water boy that's playing wide receiver for Michigan in the little highlight that they had on SportsCenter that I think might have been split in half because it was funny. Back in the day, those jacked ups were funny. That's what's going to happen to Jaden Daniels. Instead, we're not taking the guy and saying, well, he has to be this or this or this. You're taking him and saying, how do we maximize what this guy does? Because this guy is special. Cam Ward, how do we maximize what Cam Ward does?
I remember there were ESPN analysts during the draft last year that were saying you can run power with Jaden Daniels like Josh Allen. And it's like, no, you can't and shouldn't. Like, he's not the same build. He can because he's fast.
My worry for Jaden Daniels is that
Robert Griffin.
But unlike Lamar, Jaden Daniels was taking hits. Like Jaden Daniels was lowering his shoulder. Lamar, I don't know.
Someone told him early.
Yeah, I don't know many, if any. Squared up hits on Lamar. He's so slippery and slithery that even if somebody has a straight shot, it sort of grazes off of him, and he runs out of bounds a lot. Lamar does.
Smart,
absolutely. Tyreek Hill ran out of bounds a lot. Live to fight another day. Why am I going to get tackled to the ground for one more yard? Bo Jackson talked about it. He had the out of bounds. He had picked up 15 yards in the first down or whatever, and he had the out of bounds right there. But then he looked up, and I had one man to beat, and I could pick up 5 or 6 more yards, and so he did. And then he popped his hip. What's history if Bo just simply runs out of bounds to live to fight another day? But that wasn't his mentality. I get that. Jaden Daniels' mentality, I think, is to prove that he's tough. Prove that, no, I belong here and I'm not just going to get injured. I'll prove that I'm tough. Yeah, but you don't want to prove that you're tough with your arm in a sling.
Yeah, there's plenty of opportunity.
Because that's what happened
in
to
the
Graham
NFL.
Mertz against Mizzou.
Yeah.
Graham Mertz proved that he was tough and broke his collarbone and he was out for the season.
There's not going to be a lack of opportunities to prove your toughness in football.
Yeah, how about this? You're tough because you just got walloped and then you got up from the pocket.
Yeah.
And ran down and called the next play.
That's what everyone
That's
loved
tough.
about quarterback the first season was seeing the actual hits in that first episode that Peyton probably put in there for a reason. And he's talking about it.
And Kirk was getting destroyed too in some of those things.
And remember, he's like, I got to lay here for a second.
Just let me lay here for a second.
Did we score?
yeah. I mean, Kirk was getting destroyed. That's tough. Like, I don't need you to lower your shoulder on a defensive back. I need you to go out of bounds and be tough enough to not show that you want to, because that's sort of a selfish play.
Right.
Because I'm selfishly showing you that I'm tough as opposed to thinking of the entire team that's better with me out here. I need to run out of bounds so that I don't get injured for the entire team. It's the Jay Billis toughness. Like, toughness isn't just punching somebody or pushing somebody around.
Mark Messier said this when Edmonton was fighting in the Stanley Cup that game. He said that's not toughness, and he was a former Oiler. He was like, toughness is shifting the puck knowing you're about to get hit, like those type of toughness. Like being selfish and getting in a fight or, maybe it's hard to say it's selfish, like getting a little extra yardage, but it is. At the end of the day, you could have gone out of bounds and saved the whole team more yardage that you can gain on the field.
I just think what we're seeing now is there isn't a specific prototype for a quarterback that you're trying to fit everybody into. That if there's a quarterback that is unorthodox in college, there's probably a coach and an offensive coordinator in the NFL that would draft him and allow him to be unorthodox. Because thank God, Kingsbury and Andy Reid are the guys working with Mahomes. Because Kingsbury did not try to say, no, you're going to be No, we're putting you here in the air raid. You're not doing
True.
this crazy running around stuff. You're not throwing across your body. You're not doing stupid stuff like that. No. Cliff Kingsbury said, be you. Be you. Go be Patrick Mahomes. And he didn't know he had Patrick Mahomes on his hands.
Give Cliff some credit for how
I'm going to.
bad he was as a head coach.
I'll give him credit for him being a bad head coach, certainly.
No, but he didn't try and change Kyler in Arizona. He definitely didn't last year as the OC with Jaden Daniels in Washington.
True.
He's worked with some amazing quarterbacks.
Maximize the abilities that guy has and put the people around him to help do that.
Yeah, I might give Cliff. You know what? I never thought I'd ever give Cliff Kingsbury a ton of credit because he never had the success as a head coach. College with Patrick, NFL with Kyler, but he didn't try to switch those guys, and he maximized their potential as far as what they could do as a quarterback.
He has an abundance of respect as an offensive coordinator. It's just a lot more, as we've learned through like our coaches leaving the Andy Reid tree, that it is a lot more on your plate besides just drawing up plays and helping the quarterback.
Some guys are born coordinators.
For sure.
Steve Spagnuolo might be another example here in KC as the best DC of all time.
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, he should have been in the all-century team and not Wade Phillips as defensive
Buddy
coordinator.
Ryan.
Yeah. I think as we wrap up the conversation about Roethlisberger, talking about Rodgers and Mahomes, which then got us to that conversation, what maybe if we're just looking at the numbers of like the peak prime Rodgers and the only 7 years we have to go off of with Mahomes, the massive difference would be what took place in the postseason. I mean, it's not really even close if we're looking at it from that standpoint. Rodgers in that span of, what we say, 2010 to 2016, pulling it up, he went 9-6 in the playoffs.
Yeah, the seeding is what also makes it a bad run because he had a lot of home field divisional bye playoff games, including, was it his last year in Green Bay against the Niners and Garoppolo when they lost at home in the snow?
Yeah, that was brutal. That was also the one right before halftime.
No, that was the Brady one.
It
might have been both. It seems like every game, if you watch the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs that they lose, Eli threw a Hail Mary in the 11 game.
Yes.
Brady threw that one over King.
Over King. That's what I was thinking. It was over King.
And I think you're right about a San Francisco one that year in the snow, right before half.
So so he went 9-6 in those years in the playoffs. Rodgers did. Mahomes is 17-4, which is a massive difference. But in 15 games, Rodgers has, in that stretch, 32 touchdowns, 9 interceptions in the 15 games in those 7 years. The 21 games, Mahomes has 46 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. So he's got 14 more touchdowns in the playoffs and only 1 more interception in the playoffs in 6 more games.
Yeah. Mahomes is more willing to take the chances that it seems like when you're watching a Green Bay game with Rodgers in the past, it always felt like they came out like not off the start, like weren't ready for the playoffs as the team that had just played the week before coming into Green Bay and Lambeau felt. Like it felt like Rodgers would always get started in those games around the second quarter.
Yeah. Mahomes has, in that time, Rodgers is just over 7 yards per attempt in the playoffs in that stretch, and Mahomes is almost at 8. Mahomes is 68% completion. Rodgers is down at 63.
The yards per attempt is one of the biggest indicators of what I said.
And the what would be a per 17 game basis be 37 touchdowns, 8 interceptions for Mahomes, 36 touchdowns, 10 interceptions for Rodgers on a 17 game basis. But some of those other numbers that are along with that, plus the Super Bowls and constantly, because if we also take the fourth quarters of those things, which is one of my big criticisms of Joe Burrow.
Yes,
that Joe Burrow in the Super Bowl, they were up, 20-10? What was the final score there? 23-20 in the Super Bowl? 25-22? No, that was the Chiefs and, or something like that. Chiefs and 49ers, I think it was 25-22. It was like 23-20 or something like that because the Rams were down by 4 when they scored the touch. So 23-20. The Bengals took a 20-10 lead with like 10 minutes left to go in the third quarter.
Yeah.
6 possessions, no points for Joe Burrow. And they lost by 3. Joe Burrow lost in the AFC Championship game to the Chiefs the next year when the Chiefs won 23-20. That game was tied 20-20, and Joe Burrow had 3 possessions. No points and an interception. Now, Mahomes had the same 3 possessions. They eventually got those 3 points, but he got a field goal out of it. Joe Burrow did not. So you've got a score 20-20 in the AFC Championship game, and Burrow goes 0 for 3 in scoring any points. And you've got a 20-10 lead in the Super Bowl, and Burrow goes 0 for 6 in scoring any points. That matters. Whereas the Chiefs against the Eagles, Mahomes played a perfect half of football when you had to have it down by double digits, and they picked up every single yard that they wanted to. Every yard that was available to them, they earned it, except for the time that McKinnon slid at the 1 yard line is the only yard. And against the 49ers, Mahomes didn't have an amazing game, but he had 2 drives in which he trailed. Both of those last drives, fourth quarter and overtime, they were down by 3 points in both of those drives. No points, ends the game. Drives down the field, gets a field goal, drives down the field, gets a touchdown. Those 2 drives. Scored 19 points or 16 points the whole game until those last 2 drives. Scored 9 points those last 2 drives. When you had to have it. That's where you can't just go, oh, well, Raiola plays like Mahomes. Oh, well, Cam Ward has some Mahomes in him. Caleb Williams has some Mahomes in him. It's like what Gary Pinkel said. You find out what you have in a quarterback, it's like a tea bag that you got to put him in hot water.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Right.
I got scared for a second. I'm glad the hot water part came
The
up.
hot water's there, yeah, because if you teabag a quarterback, you don't know like if he's going to be really successful or not. You know what I mean, Sterling? You've got experience. We got some Learn Funniest Best. What we learned from the weekend, funniest from the weekend, best from the weekend. Let's go through the learn. We go around the room. Let's go through the learn first. What we learned from this weekend. So I learned that there was a real life Slumdog Millionaire to a degree. So
Will Smith.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Slumdog Millionaire, where, who wants to be a millionaire? He just happens to know all the answers to the questions because of life experiences, right?
Yeah.
So there's a Jeopardy contestant over the weekend or on Friday in the final Jeopardy category, and her name was Emily. Emily Croak was one of the 3 contestants. Comes to Final Jeopardy, and the question was, in 1895, the Vassar-educated wife of this man wrote, "Thousands of dollars may be paid for a copy of Shakespeare." Who in the hell knows the answer to that? Well, the other 2 contestants did not know the answer to that.
Okay.
But Emily Croak knew the answer to that.
Well, you have options, right? A, B, C, or D?
A, B, C, or D, that's correct.
So give me my options.
That's correct. And so she wrote the answer Folger. You don't get options, jackass.
Why
Final
not?
Jeopardy. She wrote the answer Folger, which was correct. The reason she knew that is because Emily Folger is her great aunt, and she was named after Emily Folger.
Wow.
And that's how she knew the answer was Emily Folger's husband.
The odds of that have to be so small. And when she got that question, she had to be so thrilled.
She was like, she just kept going, wow. Wow. It's like, she got it right. And she told Ken Jennings, I think he's the...
Oh, they said Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? We're talking
No, I
Jeopardy.
said it was a Slumdog... I said Jeopardy.
Final
Final Jeopardy had a Slumdog Millionaire.
Okay.
That's what I
My
said.
fault.
You're good. So that's why you went with the...
That's why I was like,
ABC
where are my
game.
options?
Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus, dude. No, Final Jeopardy had a Slumdog Millionaire
There we go.
element.
There we go.
Where in Slumdog Millionaire, he knew the answers only because of his specific life references that happened to have that. She may have known the answer anyway, but she was actually named after the person that started it when it was this Vassar-educated wife of this man. And it was her great uncle, I guess it would have been, if that was her great aunt, but great uncle.
Good for her.
That she was named after. And she won, so she's still going. But you could see when the credits were rolling, she's talking to like Ken Jennings or whatever with Jeopardy, and he's going, what? What? And then he has to explain to everybody, okay, so we have some here at this just happened. And she's like, yeah, that's why I'm named Emily. It's after Emily Folger. That's my name.
The coffee?
I think so, but
Folgers
I'm not sure.
Coffee, probably?
I'm not sure. Maybe it's like the Michelin stars in restaurants are named after Michelin, the tire company.
Yeah,
Maybe it's
weird.
the same thing.
Good combo.
All right, what'd you learn from the weekend? By the way, that might have been somebody's learned. I'm not sure. What'd you learn from the weekend there, Sterling?
Don't want to put this Dodgers fan on blast, but
Do it.
An account that was a Dodgers fan said during the rain delay, tweeted out, all baseball stadiums on the East Coast should have a roof on their stadium. Y'all got to do better. So I learned that Kansas City's now on the East Coast.
That's true. Yeah.
So
That makes sense. To a Dodgers fan, is everything like California and then the East Coast? Is that what it is?
So apparently
everything east of Nevada is the East Coast?
So I learned that Kansas City's now on the East Coast, according to Dodgers fans.
It may happen one day. I mean, there may be a day in the Earth's existence, probably, great niece that's going to win Jeopardy.
Also, nothing really irritates.
Kansas City's going to be the East Coast.
Side note, everyone else can learn this about me. Anytime people say do better to end a tweet, I just think you're insufferable. I'm sorry.
What about I'll wait?
Yeah, I'll wait also there. But if you're like, do better.
Please, tell me the
always
last time
sound
this
insufferable.
Happened. I'll wait.
And 90% of the time, the people that say do better are in the wrong. And they're just so up in their own stratosphere, they don't understand real life.
Like the email or the guy that left a voicemail for Mick Schaefer, or voicemail for Mick
Yes!
Schaefer when they did the story on the high school girl that was Bjorn.
Yes!
And the guy left a...
I was driving in here. I mean, that was...
Guy left a voicemail, was like, how about you guys do your research? It's pronounced Bjorn, okay?
fact
You don't,
that
you don't
guy-
pronounce the J.
And then do better. And then
do better. And then
he's
Mick
the one wrong.
Mick Schaefer replied, Well, then you need to tell that to her family and other people, because we've talked to her and her family specifically, and they pronounce the J. Do your own research. Do better. And the guy was like, "Oh yeah, I didn't know. That's interesting."
Or
You're
one
a
where,
jackass.
or one where it's like, and if you think blah blah blah, you're blah blah blah, like you're just dumb or something, and then they're wrong.
Oh, I can't stand the. If you think Jordan's better than LeBron, you've never watched basketball before.
Yes.
Like, shut up. All right, whatever. I've watched basketball. I just happen to disagree with your opinion. It's no big deal.
You just don't know ball. I get it.
Make it make sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love that. That everything east of Nevada is the East Coast.
Apparently, yeah.
Well, I agree. Every stadium on the East Coast does need a roof. What about Kansas City, though?
Also, why do stadiums on the East Coast need a roof? That's another thing that I find.
Because it rains there, Sterling. It never rains in Southern California. I learned that in a song.
Okay.
Dylan, what'd you learn this weekend?
So I learned that Shohei Ohtani threw a pitch to Vinny Pasquantino at 101.7. 101.7 miles per hour, which is the second time he's done it. It's actually the hardest pitch of his MLB career. The last time he hit 102 was in the World Baseball Classic against Vinny
VP.
Pasquantino.
So great.
So whenever he faces the Pasquatch, he knows that this is a massive matchup, and I need to bring my best stuff. Like,
I loved
that's just
it's maybe somebody's funny.
a lot
but
of respect.
When Vinny quote tweeted that, and
Yeah,
put
that was, yeah.
WTF.
That was going to be mine, and I'm glad someone
So it's
brought
funniest?
that up. Yeah, I know. No.
That was
I
gonna
have
be
a
your
different
funniest?
one. I had
Okay,
two.
good.
That was the one, and I'm glad that Dylan already did it. So thank you, Dylan.
There you go. Good job, Dylan. What was the funniest for you then, Sterling? We move on to funniest then.
Yeah, John Smoltz getting dunked on. So,
Oh, are you guys doing Learn this weekend? Are we doing the intern Learns? Oh, my bad. I did not realize that.
funniest was Jason not knowing that the interns are going to do Learned.
Okay, great.
That's my bad. That's on me. I said they could. I just
No
I didn't
worries.
pass that along.
We don't have a nickname for OU yet, okay? Oklahoma, the intern. We don't have a nickname.
Todd
here.
Jr.
Todd Jr. LJ.
Lil Lebo.
Lil Lebo.
Lil Lebo.
LJ. Lebo.
It's like Lil Sebastian. And
then
right?
Is he Keystone, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Keystone.
be
the
Lil
intern. I'll get it right.
Sebastian.
There's a lot of different nicknames. So, Lil Lebo, what'd you learn this weekend?
The USA women's basketball team and the AmeriCup are going insane. They've outscored opponents 188-90. And sure, I mean it's the AmeriCup and but like still
Who do they play in the AmeriCup?
They beat Colombia, so they beat Colombia 80-43, and they beat Chile 108-47.
Chile.
108 to 47. Who's playing? Is Caitlin on it? I'm obviously not paying much attention to it. That's my apologies.
She's not.
To-
But Sooner star Regan Beers is making a great name for herself in the AmeriCup. So
Interesting.
I'm happy.
Yes. You could say that cup has gone. It's gotten drunk. Anyway, that's bad. Dylan, you were going to say something about the America's Cup?
No, I was saying that
Oh.
to our new nickname, Lil Lebo. Of course, the Sooner was what drew.
Yeah. Oh,
drew
that
him
makes
in.
sense. Good. That's what I learned.
what I'm
I learned just like Lebo, anything that happens in his life is only connected to Oklahoma.
Absolutely.
Just wait until you hear what he says later too.
Oh, I'm looking forward to what he says later.
For
Cannot
best.
wait.
You don't have to say it now.
What did you learn, Keystone?
EA Sports announced that a college basketball video game is returning. So we get March Madness on Xbox again.
Nice. Okay.
I honestly found it this morning. It just
Either
came
Dylan was mad or excited there, because Dylan just raised his hands
Very
up in
excited.
the air.
I learned that too.
Okay.
It's one
I
of the
thought
best
maybe that was
games.
like your best, and
No,
you're like,
no,
"Oh,
no.
son of a gun!" I let them talk, and then they steal my best.
No, I dropped this. I think he learned it because I said it in
Yeah.
there like an hour ago.
Or just now, actually, because I may not have been paying attention when
Not
you said
listening
it.
to you. If
Sometimes
you told
you
him,
do, sometimes you don't.
if you told him that is great. That he's
My
like, "I
bad.
just learned it now." He's like, "Yeah, I know. I told you an hour ago." Like I said, I just learned it now as you said it. Because I was forced to listen to you because you were talking and I'm running the show. So the other times I was just ignoring you. Now you know. So there you go. We'll start then funniest. We start with Sterling with the funniest. Then we'll head to you guys. Then it'll be Dylan and I'll wrap up funniest. And Lil Lebo, you'll start with your best from the weekend, just as a heads up. Funniest for you, Sterling.
Yeah, so I'm not the biggest John Smoltz announcer
is this where John
fan.
Smoltz got dunked on?
Yeah,
Oh.
so I liked him as the player. I liked watching him, but as the announcer, I feel like he's very much just back in my day guy, which I can find a little bit annoying at times that everything's wrong because back in my day, we did it the correct way. And so he was ripping into how catchers are being taught nowadays to emphasize pitch framing in a way that sacrifices their ability to block, quote, there's no way the probability of success is going to go up that way, end quote. Well, here you go from the warmonger. WAR, W-A-R, is in like wins above replacement. Good analytics account goes.
Okay.
Pass balls and wild pitches are now down to .33 per game. That's the lowest rate since 1981. So John Smoltz, after ripping all the catchers on how they catch now and how it can't possibly be good for them and how it's it's the worst now. Back in my day, it was way better. No, we just actually found a stat that shows that they're better now than they were back in your day. So you're just a liar complaining that everything back in your day was better.
That stat came from Dick Cheney?
What are you doing there?
What are you doing there?
So John Smoltz.
Yeah.
Back
So
in my day
everything,
from John
and then so
Smoltz.
I would ask John. Well, okay. Well, back before your day, why didn't you throw 60 starts a year? Why don't you just take the ball every single day,
It's
John?
true, Cy Young did that.
Yeah, hey, Cy Young did that, John. No, those guys drive me insane. The back in my day guys. So watching them get dunked on was nice.
Well, that's the thing. Like, John Smoltz is in there now. Oral Hershiser used to be in there in the broadcast booth, and I think once we lost Oral, like it got a lot worse. You know what I mean? Like in college, I was in college when Oral. So Oral was it was like once a week. We got Oral in college, and since then,
every 5 days.
Yeah, since then it just hasn't happened really at all. You know
a
what I
lot
mean?
less Oral.
Yes, it's more John Smoltz, and just less. It was really good when he was on the broadcast. So
would he go deep into the analysis? Very deep analysis.
I don't know what you're talking about, dude.
No, the analysis.
This is your fault, Jason. You knew what he
What?
was.
What are you
You
talking
knew he
about?
was going to take it from a mile to a country mile too far.
What are you talking about?
I
I thought that
you're talking
Oral
about.
went
I
deep
thought-
with his analysis.
Really, Sterling?
That's what I
We're
said.
talking about Earl Hershiser, dude.
Yes,
Jesus, man.
that's what I'm talking about too.
Get with the program, dude.
No,
What
we're
do
in
you-
the zone.
What do you?
Get with the zone.
Well, in 16 minutes, it'll be the program. Okay. God, I'm just saying that they should bring Oral back.
Yes.
I think everybody'd be happier. What did you? What's the funniest for you, Lil Lebo?
Colorado Rockies.
Yeah?
25 triples this season, 19 wins.
Yes.
That's awesome.
I don't know how you do that.
I love that. That is great. 25 triples, 19 wins. Keystone, the funniest?
All right, it's a little bit of a stretch. Have you guys seen this grandma that's like, she's got like 2 million followers on Instagram? Have you seen
I
this
have
girl?
not seen. No.
I have not seen that
she's
game.
It's not Sister Jean?
No, so she's just a little bit like out there,
Okay.
and goes around and says some like she like promotes like OF and stuff like that, but like she's not on it, but she like
What's OF?
I didn't know if I could drop
Of.
the name of that.
It's of. Anyway, but she's not on it.
She's not on it, but she
Okay.
like hangs out with all those models and stuff. Okay. She went to Messi's Club World Cup game like last week and brought a sign like Messi, will you marry me? And Messi like acknowledged her and like gave her a thumbs up. So she came back on Friday, went to his game, or on Sunday, went to his game again, and she had like a full like white dress on and got field passes and
Oh,
brought a
God.
sign and like did the wedding with Messi.
Did
and
he marry her? He's got a wife.
Is it official or?
It's not official.
Oh, wow.
I don't know.
That's
I
too
don't
bad.
think that they got it
I
ordained.
didn't see a priest. So.
Yeah, there's
or
not
like
a
a
priest.
or someone.
Those kids are like,
yeah.
Dad, we don't have 2 Christmases anymore?
I know.
You said we were going to have 2 Christmases.
Not for very long though.
Oh.
They already
She
have.
probably dies in 10
Yes.
years.
They got enough
Wow.
money for that already.
Wow.
Well, I guess it would have to be
Damn,
true
damn.
love because he wouldn't be marrying her for the money.
Right.
You know, that's the exact opposite. She's like, well, she's marrying Messi for the money, and then when she passes away, then it would go to her aunt. That's that's taking one for
smart.
the team.
Yeah.
It's a long
That's
game.
what that is. The
Yeah.
long game. Yeah, well, not very long for her. Dylan, funniest for you?
Funniest for me, I don't have the lady's name, but do we all know the freeze in Atlanta that
Oh,
races
yes.
the fans?
This
that
was
everyone-
almost my best, dude.
So, a Atlanta police officer who was a former college track athlete was
great.
she finally beat the freeze, and didn't just beat the freeze, like smoked
Yeah.
the freeze by
Waxed
about
the freeze.
a good 15 seconds, and then did a post-race interview on the local TV and had a bit of a day out of it. So finally, the freeze goes down,
That's
and by a
awesome.
lot.
That's
so
awesome.
It's funny when you don't race little kids.
You could tell,
and,
like
yeah.
in her form, like she had some running in
yeah.
her background.
Yeah, there was no and he was really going
poking
all out and couldn't even get close.
Poking it. Yeah, I saw that. That was good. My funniest from the weekend was, you see Ed Orgeron? Oh, Edo.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Edo, he was at the former player. He had that former player wedding, and he gave a toast to the former player. And then they all went out on the dance floor, and he took his shirt off. And there's video of Ed Orgeron dancing on the dance floor with his shirt off.
Tarps off?
Tarps off, Ed Orgeron, giving the toast of Go Tigers. And then anything Ed Orgeron, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
Who has a better
fantastic.
voice, Ed Orgeron or Xavier Leggett?
Hey, I'm Coach O. I just love my Hummer. I believe the Hummer is the best vehicle on the road. Big, tough, aggressive, and it represents everything that we want at Ole Miss.
Wonder if Oral Hershiser ever did a.
I believe it continued because it was like, I got a Hummer. You need to get yourself a Hummer. Big, tough, just like our offense, and it does not
We'd already
score.
reached our quota on those bits, so I've tried to.
Big, tough, and it runs out of gas halfway down the field, just like our offense. Go get yourself a Hummer. Oh, I'll tell you something, buddy. You get your punk ass out here on the dance floor. Take that shirt off. That was my funniest from the weekend was Ed Orgeron. Best, we start with you, Lolibo.
Hate to bring it back to OU, but no, I
Oh,
don't.
shocker.
And this also extends past the weekend, so I'm breaking all the rules. But
Wow.
Wednesday, my freshman year roommate got drafted into the NBA.
Well, that's awesome.
So yeah, he's Jeremiah Fears.
Fears was your roommate?
Fears was my roommate, and now is a Pelican. So
Do you guys still stay in touch?
not really.
Do you fear him?
I do.
Jeez.
Or
that's
zero
bad.
fears.
That was bad. Yeah. Well, that's cool. How was he as a roommate?
Amazing. We coexisted very well.
That's awesome. Well, that's a good thing to do as roommates. Yes. My roommate in college played baseball, but I don't remember him, and he doesn't remember me probably at all. Had he been drafted, I probably would have remembered him at that point.
Yeah.
Then he'd be like, dude, totally, Jeremiah Fears is my roommate. If it wasn't Jeremiah Fears and he didn't get drafted, would you be bragging about it? You know what I mean? Maybe. A little bit.
Let's see.
He's breaking a lot of rules, so we could maybe come up with a nickname about him being a rule breaker or badass, potentially.
Maybe. I don't know. Neither of that is Lebo. So let's head over to Keystone. What's the best from the weekend for you?
All right, so I was at the sporting game on Saturday. So it was just like the coolest moment. I go to a lot of those games, and it was just the coolest from start to finish game for me. So Johnny Russell,
that was
who
fun.
used to play obviously here, he plays at Real Salt Lake now, and they were playing Real Salt Lake. He scored a goal and got a standing ovation from our crowd.
Yeah, it was cool.
Then we got the Matt Beasler induction at halftime into the Sporting Legends. And then Willie Agata, who also used to play here, they subbed off Russell and Agata at the same time. They both got standing ovation. And this guy I know who's born in 2008, he had his first career start, so he's 17.
Dude,
and
that's
he
awesome.
started for Sporting and played really well,
That's
too.
awesome, dude.
So I just thought
That's
it
a
was
great-
like an all-around,
it's a great night.
really cool
Yeah,
game.
It was a cool night, man. I was happy for Beasler, and then seeing Johnny Russell
Yeah.
back and everything, and that connection was
And
really
Beasler's
awesome.
a Blue Valley West guy, so.
Well, there you go. Nobody asked for that. Just joking. We love Beasler. All right, and by association, you get credit for that. Dylan, best for you?
Best for me, Adam Teicher is officially retiring.
Your
and
best is that you don't have to talk to Adam anymore.
Well,
Interesting.
that's part of it. And then also, I'm kidding. The 32 years he put in for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Maybe not that 17th one, but all the other 31 was
Yeah.
great. I'm kidding, obviously. Just 17 was fine.
Yeah.
32 years though, man, dedicating
awesome.
his life to the Chiefs and the beat, and get to enjoy Colorado. For the
Yes.
rest of his,
Yeah, he announced on Twitter today the official retirement.
Official
that,
retirement,
no
yeah.
more stories that he's writing for ESPN.
No more extremely pixelated phone images.
That's right.
through
Oh,
a
we're gonna
small
miss those.
fence hole.
Gonna miss
so,
those.
yeah.
That's too bad. The best for me happened on Saturday, and George Pickens had a youth football camp there in Pittsburgh, but he was traded to the Dallas Cowboys on May 7th. On May 9th, the people that ran the football camp for George Pickens, this True Edge Sports Company, received confirmation from George Pickens on May 9th that he would still show up for the camp. It's cool,
Nice.
right? So they let everybody know, hey, George Pickens is still going to be here, all good. Unfortunately, on Thursday, George Pickens said, yeah, I'm not showing up. I'm not going. So George Pickens was going to no-show the George Pickens camp. So Pat Fryermuth said, I'll be there. So Pat Fryermuth went to the George Pickens camp on Saturday for the kids that had signed up to go to the George Pickens camp. Pat Fryermuth showed up on Saturday. Was not scheduled to be there.
Doesn't seem like something George Pickens would do.
Wasn't that? So that's kind of a good and a bad.
Well, we know Sky Moore wouldn't have done.
Yeah, it's a best and a worst. You know what I mean? So kind of sucks that Pickens just bails there a couple days before they actually have the camp when he said he was going to be there. But pretty awesome that Freiermuth was like, "All right, I'll do it. You know, I'll be there." He might have had other things to do on a Saturday. I don't know. But I thought that was pretty cool as well. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back.
Fine, I don't have
best
the
for
best.
Sterling. Sorry, best for you, Sterling. Real quick, go.
Saw a David Lowe jersey. Remember David Lowe?
Yeah.
Lau?
Yeah.
Lowe, for his name. Yeah, I don't think they ever made those. And I saw a David Lowe jersey.
David Lowe.
Yeah, remember him for the Royals that 1.5 years?
Who can forget
I mean,
that?
just legendary. So I thought that was my best. That was maybe the most obscure Royals jersey I think I've ever seen.
It's good to get it now before his number's in right field or left field. My bad.
Yeah. You know, if we had the worst from the weekend, it would be Major League Baseball's rule that now 2 years running, with their dumb uniform rule of you're only allowed to have 4 uniforms plus a City Connect. And if you want to wear a throwback uniform, it has to be one of your 4 uniform combinations. So therefore, the salute to the Negro Leagues with the Royals can no longer wear the Monarchs jersey. It happened last year and this year as well. So the Dodgers couldn't wear the Brooklyn Dodgers jerseys. But how awesome would it have been? And Bob Kendrick pointed this out in the broadcast. Imagine the money, because then they auction off the jerseys signed for the museum. Imagine the money it would have brought back with Shohei and Mookie, Freeman, those guys wearing those jerseys.
It's so frustrating.
Thanks, Major League
it's
Baseball.
Absurd. Congrats, Rob Manfred, and your
Go
piece
run
of
a
metal.
Denny's, brother, for Rob Manfred.
Well done, Rob. Really killing it.